and Company.
I'm going to be keeping you company for the next few hours.
You are not going to believe the company.
This company.
You're going to bankrupt your mama's company?
At least I have the radio to keep me company.
On 93.5 and 107.5, The Fan.
Man, how about it? Can I just get it, Jimmy, a simple let's go?
Let's go.
You don't even know what we're let's going about.
I'm always on board for a good let's go, though.
I know why we're let's going.
Here's the thing. LFG. I mean, I can't say, but like, come on, right? I'm fired up. I got almost an entire 5 hours of sleep. I am good to go. And then.
So we're back with the acronyms, by the way? That's a thing again?
Well, only when saying the actual word would result in a $35,000 fine, right?
That's right.
And that $35,000 fine would match what Rick Carlisle was just levied, by the way, by the NBA for his criticism of the officials after Game 2. Josh Hart had the following to say, quote, Rick's saying whatever he feels. It has nothing to do with us at the end of the day. I think it's pretty disrespectful to us. Because at the end of the day, we're out there playing and competing at a high level. It's not about officiating. It's not about anything like that, end quote. But when Rick Carlisle said small market teams deserve an equal shot, they deserve a fair shot no matter where they're playing, the insinuation there that the NBA may have some sort of a bias, the NBA did not take liking to that. So $35,000, the fine. We'll see whether or not it pays off, pardon the pun, for Indiana tonight in Game 3 at Gainbridge Fieldhouse between the Pacers and the Knicks. Now, I don't know. I think everybody can figure out which one I'm talking about. I guess to be professional, I'm not going to say the name of the hotel because I don't care about making sure that the New York Knicks get a plentiful night's sleep, but I guess out of respect to the hotel, if they don't want it, most people can figure it out. But when I was driving in to work this morning, boy, the autograph hounds were out, man. And I'm not talking about 8-year-old kid, 10-year-old kid, a little kid from Staten Island whose dad, because he got a 4.0, brought him out to come see his beloved Knicks in Game 3, and they're staying at – no. I'm talking about and you know the type I'm talking about, right? The 55-year-old, sweatpants to his nipples, big fat guy down there with like 12 different variations of a Stephon Marbury jersey to try to get signed outside of the team hotel, trying to pose like a little kid. Everybody knows he's going to turn around and put it on eBay or some site. They are. I mean, I'm telling you, there's literally, it's unbelievable. Like the sidewalk was the sidewalk was absolutely. At first, I thought littered with people, and then I realized it was just two of them standing side by side. Unbelievable. All yelling, going crazy. And I thought, well, here we go. It's May in Indianapolis. The sky is perfectly blue. It's gorgeous outside. There are cars on track at IMS, qualifying later today for tomorrow's Sancio Grand Prix. Race tomorrow. And then on Tuesday, practice begins at 9 a.m. for the Indy 500 and the New York Knicks playing the Pacers in the playoffs. And we've got a Colts draft pick on the show today. We got a Feel Good Friday.
It's a good day.
It is.
And a giveaway.
We got which one are we giving away today?
Carb Day and Qualls.
Love it. And did we figure out how we're doing that?
We can figure that out during the break because that's next segment.
Okay. That's our well-oiled show producer, Eddie Garrison, lining things out, right? Line them up and knock them down, man. I love it. Good afternoon to you on a Friday. My name is Jake Query. Jimmy Cook, the other voice that you hear on this program. Eddie Garrison, of course, the guy who – and let me tell you something. The responsibilities that go into trying to orchestrate this dog and pony show, only a guy with a 9 7/8 melon can get everything inside the head to figure it all out. That's exactly what Eddie Garrison is doing for us.
That's right.
The former baseball catcher. Now, my buddy Paris is in here today. Paris is playing like semi-adult, not yet old enough to drink baseball in a baseball league. He's on the Marlins, right, Paris?
I am.
Okay.
Quite a league name there.
That's right.
It's got to be complicated to put on the trophy.
Well, you only have about a 2-year window where you can play for said team. He's with the Marlins. They got beat 21-2 in their opener.
Eddie picked them to win the whole
they're
league.
replicating. They're replicating the real Marlins, where Eddie Garrison said that he thought they were actually going to be the race for beer. Isn't that right, Eddie?
Yep. Uh-huh.
But
Thank you for the reminder.
They could use a catcher.
They could use a lot of things. They could use a lot of things.
But I'm telling you, they might be able to use your pitching or your catching expertise.
I'm better in terms of the calling the game aspect of it.
Okay. So you want to go out and call the game?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Apparently they called the game after the 3rd inning on a mercy rule.
We'd have perfect games left and right.
All right. Tonight, Game 3, and the $35,000 fine, Jimmy, we'll begin with that. Surprise, not a surprise.
Not a surprise. Rick Carlisle knew what he was doing. Coaches know the risk, the ramifications that come from questioning officiating, questioning the integrity of the game. I'm not mad at him that he did it. I would argue maybe the small market, big market thing was a little too far, especially when there's too much evidence this year to the contrary, when you just look at some of the teams in the conference semifinals going into this season, or going into this postseason, rather. Minnesota, Oklahoma City, the most notable there. And additionally, it added, there's a certain level of annoyance with Knicks fans, Jake, especially that fan base. But to the worst of them, it added fuel to this fire on social media of them pointing out the ridiculousness of it. One post was like, man, the league, got to give them credit, really played the long game here. The Knicks for most of the 2000s have been the worst team in the NBA. And now in 2024, right, once they lulled everybody to sleep, they finally put them in position to make it back to the conference final. So that aspect of it, a little ridiculous, but the message for why he was willing to take on a fine like that, he knew the ramifications when he stepped up to the microphone, and the end result he's hoping for is a better whistle, a more consistent whistle, and maybe even a slightly more friendlier whistle for the Pacers in Cambridge, much like it was in the Garden for the Knicks. I have no problem with that aspect of it. It's a part of coaching in today's NBA. At some point, enough is enough, and you have to be slapped with a fine to step up with it. I also think it's important to note that that's Rick Carlisle going to bat for his players. Clearly, his players know that it's on them to play better. Look no further than TJ McConnell basically pushing against Rick Carlisle's comments that very night, saying, I get what Rick's doing. I'm paraphrasing here. I appreciate what Rick's doing, but we have to be better. It's not about the officials. It's on us. I mean, did you have an issue with it? I saw it coming, maybe not the dollar amount, but there was going to be something coming down from the league office.
Yeah, I agree with you that Carlisle's comments, I would assume, Carlisle's comments by calling out officiating and by implying that officiating was a factor in why Indiana did not win. And I'm not saying it wasn't, but what he was doing was twofold. The bonus to it would be if you happened to get the officials to start calling things differently because it's in their head. You know, anybody, you ever get somebody that has the hiccups?
Yes.
And you say to them, I'll give you $25 if you hiccup within the next 30 seconds. And then suddenly they don't. And they're like, oh my gosh. Because it's this weird psychological thing that because now it's been pointed out and you are aware that the other person's aware you're doing it, you become self-conscious of it. And because there's an expectation you're going to do it, you naturally apprehend and you don't. Okay? Maybe a bad example, but when you call out the officials like that, now all of a sudden the officials are like, they're going to say like, we don't pay attention to that. We can't. But human nature dictates that you now are, oh, wow, there's a microscope on how I'm going to call this now. And I didn't realize that when I'm more aggressively calling a hand check, for example, now all of a sudden it's like, hey, I don't know. Should I call that hand check? I'm going to back away from it a little bit. And your natural apprehension, because you feel that there's an expectation that you're going to do something, is to do it with less assertiveness or to back away from it a little bit. If that happens with the officials and the way they call the game tonight that benefits Indiana, that's a bonus. But what Rick Carlisle actually did was not only support his guys and go to bat for them from the outside. But internally, he also pushed in the emphasis that they better play well because they now know, look, our coach has now exhausted the official's excuse. So if we lose again after he's paid a fine to theoretically awaken the officials to the way that they are calling calls against or for us, now we got no excuse. So they know now the message has been sent. They have to play better. They have to play harder. They have to play. I'm not saying that Indiana hasn't played hard, but what Indiana hasn't done, Jimmy, is played every play to the end of that possession. When New York, when you're on the defensive end and New York moves the ball around, and I mean, look, Brunson is slippery, man. There's no doubt. I mean, he is excellent at getting himself in good position and moving the ball around and all of those things, right? But Jalen Brunson, in that regard, kind of keeps you on your toes. And so then if they miss an exterior shot, or even if they go, in the rare occasion, they go inside and they miss, and you think, okay, like crisis avoided, the arrows were flying past, and we got through those, and now we got another. But then, boom, just when you think the possession is over, New York comes crashing on the offensive glass, and they extend that possession with a second look or a third look, or as you said, another bite at the apple. And Indiana cannot afford to allow that to happen. It's not that they're not playing hard, but they're not playing hard enough on most possessions. And now they have to know that none of those excuses are, it's more illuminated now because there is a greater pressure on them to back up what their coach is saying. And what their coach is saying is the primary reason we've lost 2 games is the officiating. He didn't say it in those terms, but he implied it. So now they have to back that up by saying, yes, see, it wasn't us. But the way you do that is they know they got to come out and they got to elevate it a little bit.
Well, and there's further pressure on them now. And I know that, at least in our city, JMV is usually one that uses this phrase the most, so I will ask for forgiveness later for him for borrowing his favorite phrase. But with the news coming out today from CBS Sports that there's no OG Anunoby tonight, Jalen Brunson is questionable, but OG Anunoby out this evening. It's his must-win as they come. Like, it's not just anymore the narrative, oh, you fall down 3-0 and you're basically over because no team in NBA history has come back from a 3-0 deficit. That's a whole different conversation. The conversation is now that the Knicks would, in theory, be going with 6 guys. Basically, would be their rotation. Jalen Brunson questionable, OG Anunoby out. That's already all the injuries that we've highlighted, them being down Bogdanovich, down Robinson, down Randall. Now you throw Anunoby in that. They are going to be hampered tonight. I think the Pacers can extend this series and make it a long series, but the part that doesn't need to be said, you cannot stay alive in the series, part of my John Maddenism here, without winning a game. And this is the game to get. It's not just that you're back home. It's not just that Rick Carlisle has now, as you put it, Jake, exhausted the officials' excuse. They are down another heavy-level scorer. And if you let the Villanova Knicks or the New York Wildcats, whatever you want to call them, of Hart, of Brunson, and DiVincenzo combine for like 95 points and then just get a couple here and there from their role players, you're going to lose. You're going to be down 3-0, and the series is going to be over. This is the one that every instance in NBA history says you have to get, but it's magnified now because of what you outlined about Carlisle and about what the injury report suggests with OG Anunoby now not being available tonight. It changes everything from the Pacers' perspective in terms of you get it tonight or you're going home.
Anunoby's a wonderful player. He's a great talent. He's an IU guy. You saw that talent develop before kind of our very eyes when he was in college. But the health is an issue, right? And New York, I think, knows that as good as he is, and he is very good, you kind of know that finding consistency in terms of minutes played for him is a challenge. Is he going to miss 1 game, 2 games? I don't know. I mean, the pattern is that there's a lot of wait and see with him. I also noticed, too, and I was doing Beyond the Bricks on, was it Wednesday night was game 2?
Yeah.
Tuesday night?
Tuesday, yeah.
Tuesday night.
I'm at the point in the month where it's starting to get where the days all run together to me. But so in game 2, I was doing Beyond the Bricks.
No, it was Wednesday.
It was Wednesday, yeah.
I thought you said Tuesday.
I'm like you, Jake. I don't know what day of the
What
week
the hell's
it is.
going on here? And now you want to know how I can't keep the days straight. You guys are telling me 2 days and 5 seconds.
It's one day off between
How about
games.
this? In game 2.
There you go.
In game 2, which was, what day was that, Eddie?
Wednesday.
Thank you. In game 2 on Wednesday, I was doing from inside the Bet 365 Command Center, by the way. I was doing Beyond the Bricks over on our sister station. So I was not watching the game. Now, I can only imagine how insane that has to drive Regent Bryan to know that I was not live watching the game because I was doing a radio show, like part of my job, right? And I'll bet Regent Bryan is going ballistic over that because how possibly could I do a radio show if I wasn't watching the game live?
How
Because
dare you, Jake?
I know. It's amazing.
You should
And
be ashamed of yourself.
and I even set my VCR. But I don't think I mentioned this yesterday. And I don't know. I'm sure J&V talked about this. But it wasn't really until I went back and was watching more closely the things about the game that I realized that at the time that it happened, because I was on the air when it happened, it was that Jalen Brunson had what was determined to be a foot injury. And then later I think they said something like leg. He got racked, right? He got racked.
I mean, he undoubtedly, we talked about this yesterday off air, and Eddie, please back me up on this. He undoubtedly did get his foot stepped on at some point in that game, correct?
No, he did not get his foot stepped on.
He got racked.
He took like
There
a
were two
weird
things.
turn.
There were two things. He got racked and then something else happened, correct?
When you get racked, everything else is secondary, right? I mean, let's just be real.
Is that how you label
most
it
of
on the injury report, by the way?
I'm not trying to be crass. Most of the people listening to this program know what I'm talking about.
Sure.
It starts with the, oh my gosh, what just happened? That's the most vulnerable area possible. And then it moves into like a slight headache for about 30 seconds before then the most incredible intestinal pain you've ever had. And you feel like you probably need to go to the bathroom immediately. And then you lose your breath. And then you start, at that point in your life, you literally would make any deal with the devil to make that pain go away. Doesn't last long, but when it does, holy cow, right? That's what happened. So he leaves the game, and then after 5 minutes they said, Jalen, how does your foot feel? And he said, feels fine. And they said, okay, he's not good yet. And then later they asked him again, and he said, feels fine. And they said, well, he's halfway there. And then he was able to say it feels fine, and he went back in the game. And he was Willis Reed, and everybody went crazy over it. And in reality, he just got racked, right?
So you're saying that it's not right foot soreness per the injury report? You're saying that that's...
It might be right soreness, but right? I'm just saying, watch the video. It's pretty clear. Watch the video.
Scott Agnes tweeted a video of Brunson injuring his foot and asked for a sub immediately. So
Okay. I'm telling you, the thing that most hurt him where he was out was he got racked.
There were a lot of ailments going on with Jalen Brunson.
then why would he be on the injury report for tonight with a foot injury?
Because it's easier than saying racked. Everybody, what did Rick Carlisle say? Everybody's got something, right?
Well, you can't lie about an injury on the injury report. If he's hurting the groin, you put groin.
We're blurring the line between joke and reality.
Eddie,
here.
how long have you been doing this?
Doing what?
You can't lie on the injury report?
You're not supposed to.
Okay.
At least with the designation of injury.
You're not supposed to drive 37 miles an hour on 82nd Street between Allisonville and Keystone, but it doesn't stop everybody from turning it into the Audubon, now does it?
So you anticipate he plays tonight? I do. You do? I don't think there's any doubt Jalen Brunson's playing tonight. Like, that's not... I don't care what he's listed as on the injury report. He's playing tonight.
Absolutely playing tonight.
Like, you don't punt playoff games, which is basically what you can't... To not have Jalen Brunson out there, which, again, we're all in agreement he will be out there, but to not have him out there is effectively saying, we're up 2-0, we're good, let's get healthier, and then be back ready to go for Game 4. Like, he's going to be out there. It's not severe enough, at least from all the reports,
Correct.
that he would not be out there, regardless of what his injury designation may or may not be.
I'm telling you. He got racked.
I don't think that's in dispute. I think what you might be disputing is whether or not he also might have gotten stepped on. or whatever. Came down wrong on his foot.
You get stepped on your foot. Oh, my foot hurts.
Not Kenny Pickett.
I mean, no, nobody can step on Kenny Pickett's hands. You know why? They're too little.
Exactly.
Listen, everybody's got something, right?
Correct. Everybody's dealing with something.
I think Jalen Brunson is a heck of a player.
He's incredible. And this isn't just from all the Knicks people that we've talked to over this week.
Okay, hold on. Do we have the breaking news sound already? Breaking news, Jalen Brunson apparently hurt his foot because he couldn't walk straight because he got racked. Thank you. I'm telling you, that's the injury.
That's sources?
I'm telling you.
What that was?
Yes. That's what happened.
We've heard enough Knicks fans say it, and I get it. It's a blurred line. Pacers fans really don't want to hear this because the rivalry is deep against the Knicks, and it's against the Pacers. But, yes, there's a lot of people that are captivated by what Jalen Brunson, and in particular the Knicks, are doing. When you look at where they were to start the season, where they were a couple weeks ago, people counting them out against Philadelphia, and Brunson himself kind of being counted out for a large part of his career, trying to find a home, trying to find the right destination, being said he's too small, he's undersized. And for him to bully people the way that he has in the playoffs, the Pacers included, objectively, is admirable. That said, kick them back to New York, and let's have a game 5 in the Garden, tied at 2 games apiece. I'm as excited as you are, not just because at this stage from a health standpoint, like it's been all series, but more so without Anunoby, the deck is stacked for the Pacers to take advantage in game 3. You get a win on the board, and then we see where everybody is from a health standpoint going into game 4.
Kidding aside on all of it, the reality is this. You need 2 guys to bring their A game tonight. I know that the easy thing that people point out towards is Miles Turner. Miles Turner's got to play. Miles Turner's got to play. I get that. The most important player for Indiana tonight to get going and get in rhythm and to start getting, because Pascal Siakam's been a really good player, and Siakam was really good in the Milwaukee series for the first half of it. But this is why you acquired Pascal Siakam. You gave up future assets, and yeah, it was a good trade, don't get me wrong. But you gave those up because you felt like your time was now, you wanted to push in, and you were giving the tryout to see, is this in fact the guy that we want to have? Because you've got to make a serious commitment to Pascal Siakam to retain him for next year. He's a free agent at the end of the year. One would assume that to make that trade, they had assurance that he wants to go beyond this year with Indiana. But in his mind, that go beyond is going to be close to max contract money. And quite frankly, when all the chips have been pushed in here, he has not yet showed max contract output. He's been a very good player. And at times, he's been an elite player. But this is the time where you need him most. And he's been not terrible, but he's been average. And if you're paying max or exploring paying max money, you need above and beyond average, right?
All of a sudden, you get into 2025 guy territory.
That's right.
If you're going to pay that kind of money.
I don't know that he's that yet.
He's
but
not.
Yes,
but
you are
that's,
correct.
That's the slippery slope.
You're correct.
You start to walk down,
especially when he's 30. Right?
He has the championship ring. He has the pedigree. He has the experience. He's been in high octane playoff moments. He did show it a time or two against Milwaukee, but you need him not just tonight, because I would argue, and I don't want to undersell the Knicks here, but as shorthanded as they are, I would argue you don't need that full, when you look back on the series, that was the Pascal Siakam game tonight. But you need the foundation and the confidence set for it so that it comes as the series continues to play out.
Knicks had a team bonding event last night at the hotel. Jalen Brunson did not participate. Do you know why?
Why is that?
Because they were playing billiards, and he heard that somebody was going to get racked. So he said, you know what, I'm out.
Makes sense.
Been there, done that.
Makes sense.
I'm just telling you, that was the injury. A.D. Mitchell, by the way, wide receiver, draft pick, Colts, 20 minutes.
Terry Stacy here with your American Standard
the Colts wide receiver draft pick out of Texas, going to join us. And I'm probably going to screw this up because I don't know if you know this or not, guys, but he went to Texas. He played at Georgia. He went to high school in Nashville, Tennessee, and the name of his high school is Missouri City.
They're just setting you up for failure.
So basically, I'm going to say, so when you were at Missouri, what made you transfer to Tennessee? Well, actually, I was at Georgia, and I transferred to Texas. That's what I meant. Right? Now, his first name is pronounced, is it Adonai or Adonai?
Adonai.
Adonai Mitchell, better known as AD, but he's going to join us. He was the kind of the origin of Chris Ballard, and I appreciate Chris Ballard doing so. I mean, but Chris Ballard getting kind of defensive about things that were said about Mitchell throughout the process, the draft process, of him not interviewing well. Well, we'll find out, right? How he interviews. And Ballard was very defensive of Mitchell. So we'll find out what that means to the Colts draftee, I guess, if you will. Eddie, you said we have tickets to give away, correct?
That is correct.
And
Good,
this
sir.
is for qualifying and carb day, right?
That is also correct.
You can always tell if somebody's of a certain age because you say, now, do you go to the Indy 500? And they say, well, I've been to the time trials. That's like the old town radio way of saying things, the time trials. Should I, when we do qualifying on the race, should I say, that's right, guys, I'm here for the time trials? It sounds kind of cool, doesn't it?
It does. Brings me back to Mario Kart days. So they called it Mario Kart 64. It was time trials.
Yeah.
Want to go practice laps around Rainbow Road.
Got to look out for aren't there like turtle shells and stuff?
Oh,
like,
yeah. Red shells, green shells, blue shells, the whole
Banana
nine.
peels.
Oh, man.
Those banana peels are tricky.
Lightning bolt, it'll shrink you.
It's nothing better, though, with the 500 than the sandwich bags flying around. There's a couple of Ziplocs, sandwich wrappers. And then, of course, and I think they brought them back a couple of years ago. But, man, there were few things that were more missed at IMS than the low-angle flower bed off of turns 3 and 4 when they take that low camera angle, boom, 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 and the flowers are right there.
My favorite.
It's the absolute best. And they brought them back, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. And I remember I had heard that they were bringing them back, and I simply sent a tweet or something with a picture of like a still shot from an old race of yesteryear and said, these are coming back this year. And I kid you not, it was, I mean, you would have thought that I sent a thing like Peyton Manning is returning to the Colts. I mean, it went, people went bonkers over it. Absolutely bonkers. So, Eddie, our tickets for time trials. Do we have the prepare to qualify sounder?
I was going to ask.
Perfect for that,
yeah.
right?
Prepare to qualify.
One more time. Hell yeah. Let's go, right? So how are we giving these tickets away, Eddie? Did you determine that?
No, I didn't. I was letting you determine it today.
Are we going to do trivia today at 239-1070? So if you want to go to Qualls and you want to go to Carb Day, which you're going to hear George Thorogood, you're going to hear the Gin Blossoms, you're probably going to see a few things that you did not have on your bingo card in the morning. And you're going to say to yourself when you get home, you're going to be Mike Damone. You're going to say, I'm in a great mood. What the hell happened? Because that's what Carb Day is all about. It's the best. It's the civic holiday and traffic starts backing up around 7 or 8. Jimmy starts sweating a week ahead of time as to how he's going to get there.
Do I ever? So many cars, so many areas to navigate through.
It's the best. You got a parking pass.
Well, I get that, but remember, it was my first time last year parking in the media area, and I had no idea where I was going. I went through the neighborhoods, and everybody's trying to park in houses. And
Now, Eddie, or Jimmy.
I wasn't prepared.
Okay, here's the thing, Jimmy.
No one mentally prepared me.
There's a lot of days between now and Carb Day, right?
Yes.
You do a dry run. You do a rehearsal where you get in your car and you say, I'm going to drive out there and get familiar with the path so that I know where I'm going.
So I can prepare to qualify?
So you can prepare to qualify. That's exactly right.
All right.
It's the only way to do it. All right, who do we have here?
Thank you.
Eddie, who do we have?
We've got
do we have a
callers.
Michelle? Is that a female that we have? Do we have 2 females here? All right, we're going to go with Michelle. Just because we have, this is, I believe, the 16th female listener in the history of the program. Hi, Michelle. How are you?
It's been a long time since I called into this station. I was listening to you guys you're going to give away tickets for the qualification.
Now, you said it's a long time since you've listened to this station. Is that what you said?
Yeah, it's been a while.
Now, so did you just stumble across? Is your radio broken? How did you end up on the show today?
No, my radio isn't broken. I kept looking for you at 107.5, and I live far enough south to where I can't
Gotcha.
get it.
Okay.
And so I just discovered that you're also on 93 point whatever.
That is correct. Yes, we appreciate you finding us, Michelle. Are you a native to Central Indiana, Michelle?
I am a native of Central Indiana, and I listen to you guys a lot online when I lived in Florida for 8 years.
Oh, really? Where'd you live in Florida?
West Palm Beach for the most part. I mean, that's for anyone who actually wants to know where it is. They wouldn't know the name of the little.
West Palm, very elite area, Michelle. I'm impressed. Like West Palm,
It is not.
No, that's
Palm
by
Beach.
Jupiter. That's all the rich folks. By the way, how's
No.
Okay.
Palm Beach and Jupiter is. West Palm Beach is a cesspool hole.
Now, just out of curiosity, Michelle, it's a beautiful day outside today. How's the Ferrari running?
My 2006 Honda Accord is running pretty good today.
Okay. All right. Now, Michelle, are you happy to be back in Central Indiana?
Absolutely.
I'm sure never more happy than in this moment, right? Okay, Michelle, we have two ways that you can win these tickets. You can either do Indy 500 trivia, or you can do trivia about the show to prove your listenership. Which would you like to go with?
I can try it, Indy 500. No matter how many races I've been to, I probably will fail.
How many times have you been to the Indy 500, Michelle?
It was my first official day with my husband in 2007.
Really? Okay.
I went when I was 18 just to be in the infield. Couldn't remember a thing. Couldn't tell you anything other than getting a sunburn.
Okay.
Let's see. My husband and I have it as pretty much as a tradition to go, since that's kind of his grandfather worked in the pits when he was
very cool.
Back when we actually held on to our mechanics instead of being on teams.
I would assume, Michelle, that you and your husband are still married, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
We just celebrated 16 years 2 days ago.
Well, 16 years of marriage then, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, congratulations.
Congrats.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
And what's his name, Michelle?
Jeff.
Jeff? Okay. Okay, so, Michelle, here's my trivia question for you, and I'm not saying that you're not going to make it to year 17 if you miss this with Jeff, but, the pressure's on, right? Here we go.
Right.
So your first year was 2007, you said. Your first date with your husband was at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in 2007. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Did you go to the race, you're saying, or you just went to, the infield that day?
We went to the race.
That was the only time you went in the month of May, or were you there other days?
That year, I think he made me mad. We were dating, or we were talking on the phone. He made me mad, so I had qualification tickets, and I took somebody else.
Oh, well. Look at you. Okay. Well, all right.
If you win,
So that fella moved you to Palm Beach, Florida, and then now you're back with Jeff, right? Is that what we've determined here?
No.
Okay. So,
Jeff,
Michelle, here's my trivia question for you, okay? In
Okay.
2007, I know you said you got a sunburn, but the irony of that is the 2007 race actually was called short due to rain. The race was rained. Tony Kanaan was leading. Everybody thought he was going to win. Then they went ahead and they resumed the race. And the 2007 race was won by a guy that ultimately would go on to win 3 Indianapolis 500-mile races. And his wife famously ran through the rain in, ironically, a sundress, wearing a big sun hat on pit lane, and everybody got excited about it when he won his first Indianapolis 500. Can you name the Scotsman that won in 2007?
I knew you were going to ask this. Dang it.
Okay.
I watched the end of that race at Red Lobster on the south side.
Oh, okay.
We
Yeah, there you
left during the rain, and I got sunburned when I was 18, not at that race. I'm much older than that.
Okay. So I'm sorry. So you're getting your lobster stories confused. My apologies. Okay, what about this then? What if I told you that he was married to Ashley Judd and his first name rhymes with Mario Andretti?
Oh, shoot. Dang it. Oh, I know who that is. Dang it.
Okay.
Sorry, his wife's a nut, but, Frank. Oh,
Oh, whoa. Keep going. Keep going,
there.
Michelle. Keep going.
It's not bikini. It's, I know.
His first name rhymes with Mario. The first letter of his first name, it was every grade that I got in math class if I barely passed.
Dario ring.
Yes, Michelle, that's
Okay.
good enough.
That's good
That's good enough.
That's good enough.
We put you through the ringer enough, Michelle. You are. Guess what? Good news. You and Jeff are going to see year 17, Michelle.
Oh, awesome.
All right, so you will be at qualifications. You will be at Carb Day, and we will look for you at Red Lobster at about 5:30. Awesome. There you go. Michelle's your winner. We got A.D. Mitchell up next. All right. Colts draft pick, wide receiver out of Texas is next.
Join JMV Thursday, May 16th.
Never had the dedication.
15 minutes before the top of the hour on a gorgeous Friday. How are you? My name is Jake Query. Jimmy Cook, the other voice you hear on this program. Eddie Garrison flying the controls for us. It's Query and Company on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Our next guest on the show is in Indianapolis for rookie mini camp. He heard his name called during the 2024 NFL Draft out of the University of Texas. And we have precedent in this town where we had Antoine Bethea, which then became Antoine Bethea. We had Darius Leonard, who then went by Shaquille Leonard. So because I have heard various ways to say A.D. Mitchell, I will ask him which way he would like to be introduced. So, Mr. Mitchell, when the people of Indianapolis are going to be saying your name on Sports Talk Radio, chanting it at Lucas Oil Stadium, whatever it may be, the way that you would introduce yourself and prefer to be called is how?
I say for broadcasting purposes, Adonai Mitchell. Just knowing exactly kind of what my name means and kind of the power that it holds. But if it's just, you come up and see me on a regular Tuesday, AD will do. I'm not really picky about that.
Okay, I'm going to go to and allow you to elaborate on the meaning of the name, the significance of it, and why. And I will say Adonai when I'm talking about you on the radio.
My parents did a great job just giving their children names with meanings. My name is Adonai, which means my Lord, or another name for the Lord. And my older brothers all have different names with significant meaning. And kind of growing up, we were always different, so we didn't really know kind of how to feel about them. But now that we're old enough to understand the meaning and understand everything, we kind of take pride in it.
I like that. All right, so in terms of on here, Adonai it is. All right, that's the deal I'll make with you, Adonai Mitchell. But we'll call you AD for this informal conversation. Congratulations and welcome to Indianapolis. If you could, just kind of your overall thoughts now that the process of waiting, hearing your name called, and knowing that you are a Colt. Take me through the last few weeks of your life.
Definitely celebrated the night that I got the call. Celebrated with all the family, and kind of pretty much after that it's just been right back to work. The hard part is out the way, I'd say. The things that I can't control, all those things are out of the way. And, now it's all about what I'll be able to do with my opportunity once I get it. And that's pretty much all we've been focused on. And that's all I'm going to continue to focus on for the time being.
AD, at what point in your college career, be it at Georgia on those national championship teams, be it with Texas with your guys' appearance in the national semifinal, at what point in your development as a wide receiver did the college game really start to slow down for you?
I'd say my second year in college. My second year was, just getting the first year under my belt, coming back with the same quarterback, same offensive coordinator, just coming back in a very familiar system. I felt like that was, the year where I felt pretty much like the most comfortable, the most ready to go. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to take advantage of everything that year, being that I missed 9 games. But I'd definitely say my sophomore year.
I'm looking here at, and I'm sure you did, your draft profile, right? I get a kick out of these, AD, so I'm saying this like almost in defiance of it. The way that they nitpick prospects, okay? Now let me read you one thing that I'm reading here from one of these guys that probably ran a 9.440, okay? It says, cradle catcher who fights the football when catching with hands. Now, I don't know what other part of your body you catch with, but what in the hell does it mean that you fight the football and you're a cradle catcher? Do you even know what that means?
I don't know exactly what they got.
Is it hard not to get caught up in stuff like that, the nitpick that comes with the process?
Oh, no, it's very easy not to get caught up. Just knowing that everybody will have their own opinion. Everybody will, like, at the end of the day, you could be a perfect prospect and people will still find something to say about you. So it really just kind of adds more fuel to the fire. So, if somebody does see something like that, then all we doing over here is working to eliminate everything, eliminate every negative thing that a person could say about me. That's all we can do at the end of the day. I can't go over there and and make somebody stop talking. So, I'll just do my job on the side, and they can do theirs.
For the record, you've never had a fight with a football, right?
No.
Yeah,
no,
okay,
I don't think so.
Want to make sure. Okay, so when you again, A.D. Mitchell is our guest. He was drafted by the Colts in the second round, the 52nd pick overall. After, and I want you to listen to this because I like this. I'm saying this is a positive here, okay, A.D.?
Mm-hmm.
After you were drafted, when Chris Ballard, who is, now the guy that selected you into the NFL of the Colts, the general manager of the Colts, was talking to the media, and the question was asked as to, with your talent, why you went 52nd, and if there were rumors of question marks of, like, poor interviews during the process. And Chris Ballard went to bat for his guy. Take a listen to this, and then I want to hear your reaction.
I don't know. I mean, I read some of the bull that was said on TV. I mean, just the typical, excuse my language, our typical league, unnamed sources, bad interview. That's such bull. I mean, it is. It's bull. Like, put your name on it. I'm tired of, we tear these young men down. These are 21, 22 young men. And if people out there can tell me they're perfect in their lives, it's crap. It's crap. This is a good kid. And, for those reports to come out, like, I said it last year, it's bull. I'm sorry. I apologize for the language. I don't, but I do.
All right. AD, your reaction.
Man, I loved it. I remember when that first came out, man, and it was just like, it just got me fired up. Like it really kind of cemented, like, just, I'm a Colt now, really. Just, the way he kind of took up for me, and I loved it. Made me want to run through a brick wall for him.
What was the perceived, to your knowledge, I'm sure, your agent or your reps might have heard it. What was the exact thing, do you think, that he was having to dismiss there? What were some of the red flags that were allegedly out there about you that you felt caused you to drop? Because I'm assuming you, and I think going 52 is still a big honor, but you probably thought you were going to go higher.
Yeah, it is what it is. I'd say just I just remember just one random day I opened my phone up and I got a lot of notifications, and it was something with diabetes and stuff, saying that I'll take care of my blood sugar or whatever was put in the article. But I didn't really think anything of it, to be honest. I really feel like if I wasn't, taking care of my body, or if I was living the wrong way, not doing what I was supposed to do, I wouldn't even be able to make it to even be here, to be honest. So I didn't really think nothing of it, to be honest.
Colts rookie wide receiver A.D. Mitchell is our guest. A.D., we don't know you, right? Like, we don't know you personally. We don't know what drives you, but from everything that we've read about you, from the highlights, the games that we've seen of you, I don't think that you're the type of player that necessarily needs extra motivation. But we've seen over the last couple of years in sports, really the last 10, I remember Patrick Mahomes counting the people that drafted him when he scored a touchdown against the Bears a couple of years ago, because they were one of the teams that passed on him. In the NBA, Draymond Green can famously recite everybody that was taken ahead of him. There was a story that came out today. It was reported that you'll wear number 10 for the Colts, and the reason being is because that's the same number of receivers that were taken before you heard your name called in the draft. A, is that true? And B, if it is, how do you use something like that as motivation, even though you're true within yourself, knowing how talented you can be?
Yes, indeed. That definitely is true. And I'd say just, every time I kind of look at it like every time I put on a jersey, I kind of morph into something different. Like Jim Carrey in the green mask. Like every time he put that mask on, he wasn't the same character he was before he put it on. So, but nah, it's just, Hey, it's nothing but more fuel to the fire. I feel like I always had this chip on my shoulder that I could just never get off, and every time I look down, that shit just get bigger. So, I'm really just excited for the year, excited to be a Colt. And really just ready to take everything on for sure.
Have you met AD? AD Mitchell is our guest. Have you met Anthony Richardson before this process, and just your thoughts now on playing with a big-armed quarterback that's got some big play capability?
I never really met him, like formally. I remember when I was at Georgia, we played Florida while he was there, and you talk about a guy with a big arm and just big playability, like. He's incredible. I definitely look forward to meeting him. Look forward to getting connected with him. Getting on the same page with him. Really just learning how to play with each other. Learning, what he likes to do on the field. And also kind of explaining, kind of what I do well and things like that. But I'm definitely ready to get to meet him. Ready to get this thing on the road.
Okay, lastly, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions just to get to know you away from football. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. First one, the musical artist you most frequently listen to or would love to see in concert is who?
My most listened to artist right now?
Yep.
I'd probably say Future.
Okay. Secondly, when you get to Indianapolis, the kind of food that you most want to explore from a restaurant standpoint to make your staple is what? What's that?
Soul food.
You wasted no time there. Like that was quick. Are you familiar with Country Kitchen?
No.
Okay, Country Kitchen. Ask around the locker room. Guys will tell you about Country Kitchen. I can tell you that. It's as good as you're going to find, right? As good as you're going to find. All right. Next one. Your level of experience, because I'm just thinking off the top of my head. You went to high school in Tennessee, right?
Uh-huh.
And then Texas, Georgia. Have you ever driven in snow?
No, I have not.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. Have somebody else drive when you go to Country Kitchen in December.
Okay, you ain't got to tell me twice.
That is the most important thing. Overall, like, just the feeling, if you could, of all of this. You obviously have moved to different places. You switched colleges. It's not new. Being on a new team is not new to you. Mm-hmm. But it's a whole different animal now, just this element. What percent of it is excitement, and what percent of it, if we're being totally truthful here, A.D. Mitchell, is nerves?
Dang, I think it's impossible to go 100% for each, but I'm going to still go ahead and say 100% for each. That's just how turned up I am, and also how nervous I am. I'd probably say 150 because I'm a little more turned up than nervous.
Okay, if you've got to get the nervous energy pushed out and just go with straight energy from it, are you more likely to be listening to March Madness or Magic City Monday?
I'll probably get in the studio and make me a hit or something.
All right, there you go. I like that. I got no problem with that. That's what we like to hear.
Yeah.
Hey, 80, obviously I know a busy time, busy week upcoming with rookie minicamp, and a lot going on, a whirlwind, right? But we appreciate it. I will go with Adonai Mitchell. When we talk about you, your first career touchdown, we'll say it was Adonai Mitchell yesterday that had it. Does that sound good?
About it. Yes, sir. Appreciate you.
All right, appreciate it. And I guess I'm supposed to say hook 'em horns too, right?
For sure. Hook 'em, man.
All right. We appreciate it, Adonai. Have a good one, all right?
Already.
All right, Adonai Mitchell, the new wide receiver, 52nd overall pick. He will wear number 10 for the Colts, and that is because, Jimmy?
It's because that's the same number of receivers that were taken ahead of him.
That is correct.
2024 NFL draft.
A receiver-rich NFL draft. Kyle Kinezovich, by the way, the one that knows Future and gave me those two songs. So we got to bounce back with one of those, right?
I guessed it correctly. I would have thought you just Googled Future hits. I'm impressed that Kyle was able to chime in and help you out.
Jimmy. There is nobody that lives more in tune with Future while living in the present than myself. You act like I live in the past. The hell are you talking about? Although I would have liked to hear some Slick Rick or Too Short.
Hey, it's JMV for the best in realty. Mark
Realize that this is routinely playing in the Jeep. I mean, it's fine.
That's on me.
Yeah.
I apologize.
I mean, come on.
His radio's not broken, Jimmy. It's Jake Query. Come on now.
I'm telling you right now, if you brought in, and I know I'm going on the way back here, but it's so hard for me because you always go back to like music that was big for you, like in a 10-year period or whatever.
Sure.
I will admit, I mean, The Great Adventures of Slick Rick, I could do the entire album. You could turn it down for 2 minutes, turn it back up, and I will be right on point. It's unbelievable.
I've heard you recite movies verbatim. I'm not going to question your ability to recite a 3-minute song.
Eddie, you'd like to back him up on that, right?
Can confirm, Jimmy. Can confirm.
That's right. Joining us now on the program, I'm sure thrilled to be doing so and having PTSD of those kinds of conversations, Kevin Bowen, who you hear in the morning, on the wake-up call with KB and Andy. And here we are, Kevin. I mean, look, the Colts, in terms of the NFL, I mean, it is a year-round deal, I realize. I've asked this before, but I'm going to ask it again since we just had on A.D. Mitchell before we get into the Pacers and some of the other things going on. A rookie minicamp, I mean, how in-depth does that get? Is it basically just kind of a get-to-know and wear name tags deal, or are they diving pretty deep into the playbook? What exactly does take place?
Yeah, you do have 2 practices, so I'm pulling in the Colts complex here in a few minutes. So their first practice will be today. They'll have another one tomorrow. Obviously, when you only have, I guess they had 9 draft picks, which is a pretty big number, but then 7 undrafted free agents, the majority of people on the practice field today are just tryout guys. So it's probably even more of an opportunity for them of, do they impress the staff at all and maybe hang around here. And typically there are some local guys that are involved into that group. But, I mean, for example, I remember last year, probably my first takeaway, 5-10 minutes into practice was like, wow, Josh Downs is very good at football. And your draft picks, frankly, should stand out, should dominate here in this sort of setting. But, yeah, for the most part, it's much more lay of the land, NFL 101 stuff. But this is the first opportunity to get on a practice field, and then you'll group together with the veterans next week and be with them from here on out.
KB, is the other underlying purpose of what rookie minicamp is for? Jake brought this up yesterday when asking if you look back at a point in your life where you were going into a total foreign environment and didn't know what to expect. I think for a lot of people, it's probably freshman orientation going from wherever primary school was into high school. And this is probably the closest equivalent, but it's not the same because you don't have all the seniors there, right? All you have are, I guess in this case, teachers or coaches and your fellow rookie classmates. So is it really just what you said, getting your feet wet and then really hitting the ground running once you get into OTAs and then the countdown to training camp? Like, is this really more about familiarity and clearing that first bar of your rookie offseason?
Yeah, that's probably a good way to put it. Orientation, that's probably a good description. Do they still have some just only freshman days to start high school? I kind of forget. I feel like that was a thing of the freshmen will come to school a day earlier than everybody else, and then you'll reintegrate with the other 3 grades the next day. It probably has that feel to it. It's, an hour and 15, hour and 30-minute practice. By no means is it the end-all, be-all, but again, I can think back to, Josh Downs certainly stood out in a big, big way, even just in a small practice setting last year. And outside of that, it's tons of meetings and, here's the building. And this is a little bit of what professional football is all about. Then they'll have next week will be kind of a slowish week in terms of nothing like offense, defense. And then those final 3 weeks of the spring, that's when they will get into what you hear commonly referred to as OTAs. So that's when the veterans and the rookies all together, 11-on-11 stuff, not full pads, but still it's the closest thing you'll get to that here in the spring.
Kevin Bowen, by the way, is our guest. He's on the always active and busy but shockingly unsponsored guest line. Kevin, moving to the Pacers and Knicks here in game number 3, we've been talking a lot about, I think Halliburton's kind of the easy thing to point towards in terms of just trying to get the consistent play from him. But I think Pascal Siakam's got to step things up. What say you?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. He hasn't been anywhere near a $200 million guy for you in this series, and he couldn't ask for a better situation, frankly, with OG Anunoby being out tonight. And sounds like probably Sunday as well. I mean, Siakam should dominate, frankly. I saw the over-under on him is 21 points for tonight. I would think that he eclipses that pretty easily if he can get back to his normal self. Obviously, the free throw shooting has been abysmal. I never really viewed him as a dead-eye, high-volume three-point shooter, but he's certainly better than what he's been here as of late. So, it's just so disappointing for the Pacers to exit the 2 games in New York, and you start naming the best players in each of these first 2 games, and certainly Halliburton the first half the other night. But, when you really make a list, I mean, Siakam's nowhere to be found on any sort of top 5 list if you're going to combine both teams. I mean, hell, he might not even be one of the 3 or 4 best Pacers players through this series so far. And obviously Halliburton wouldn't be too high on that list either, with really only playing, 1 great half and I'd say 3 very subpar halves. So your stars got to deliver, I mean, you saw it. If you just want to talk specifically guards, you're seeing it with Jalen Brunson. You saw it last night with Donovan Mitchell. You need more of that from your frontline guys, and you haven't gotten that whatsoever.
Kevin, is it jarring to you to see plays where Tyrese Halliburton might drive or might try to get some penetration off the dribble and see Knicks so instinctively jump passing lanes because they don't believe that he's going to go to the rim to finish? They believe that he's going to pass out for a perceived better opportunity. Like, has that gotten to a point where it doesn't surprise you anymore that they're doing that? Because when it happened late in game 2, maybe it was just me, but something clicked to the point of, wow, they really don't think he's going to drive and try to finish at the rim.
Yeah, I would say what really stood out to me, Jimmy, about the end of game 2 or just the second half of game 2 in general, I mean, that dude was, he was one step on the moon in the first half with how well he was playing. I mean, he had to be on top of the world.
Oh, he's great. It's flashbacks to November, right?
Sure. And, to do it on the road, to do it in that arena, after all the chatter about me for 48 hours, et cetera, we've got a 10-point lead. Like, he couldn't have scripted really a better first half. I was shocked by the lack of assertion, aggressiveness, however you want to describe it there, in half number 2. Because, again, it's not like he just had a poor first half where he might be hesitant, lack confidence, however you want to describe it, in half number 2. So that's what stood out to me. I mean, that third quarter, you score 18 points in that third quarter, and it's an avalanche, and, he should be the guy that is helping you out, trying to stop the bleeding. I think he had 1 shot attempt, if I'm not mistaken, in the entire third quarter. That is what stood out to me of just, wow, out of that half, this is how he follows it up.
I look, Kevin, one of the things that has astounded me, Kevin Bowen, our guest, is going into the series, you thought to yourself, okay, Indiana's going to want to play fast because it's going to wear out New York. And a Thibodeau team tries to slow you down, tries to half-court it and everything else. I mean, the reality is you're down 2-0, and it's not like you're getting beat 101-94. I mean, the pace almost seems to be advantage Indiana, but it's amazing to me that New York is not only able to keep up the pace considering their rotation, but at the same time, outwork them on many possessions in the third and fourth quarter. It's staggering to me. What needs to be done or tweaked differently?
Yeah, that's the thing where it's hustle and it's effort more than anything. I think it's a great point you make about the Knicks almost seem to get, and I don't know, maybe it's the Pacers get tired and the Knicks don't, but the Knicks almost seem to get more hustly as the game moves along. It's like, in the fourth quarters where they're at their finest in terms of their ability to get loose balls. Their offensive rebound efforts in the third and fourth quarters have just been out of this world, and that's kind of their MO. To be fair, I think if you look at some of their stat numbers, it does indicate it. That they're the marathon runner that can close, and the Pacers are probably more of a sprinter. And that's why I think the missed opportunities have been there when you point to, game 1, obviously you had the 9-point lead early fourth quarter. Game 2, you had the 10-point lead at halftime. The Pacers have not proven to be a good clutch team at all here over the last few months. And obviously the Bucks series, you really didn't get into any of those games. The one game you got into was this one, was the game 3. And that was simply just survival of the fittest. That was just like, okay, who's going to just somehow get an offensive rebound? And the Pacers got a million of them. And the Bucks are old, and that's how you were able to win that game. the Knicks, you don't want to play that game with them. I mean, Hart, it's frankly amazing what he's doing on both ends of the floor. DiVincenzo falls into the same boat. I do think the Anunoby injury is huge. You obviously don't hope or ask for injuries. The Pacers could not be getting better injury luck right now through the first 2 games of this series. I mean, hell, you had Brunson off the floor for over a quarter and a half, and they were, minus 20 without him. It's just such a perfect scenario for the Pacers, and yet the only thing you have to show for it is 0-2 and $35,000 less for Rick Carlisle.
The Knicks are losing a guy per game, but at this rate, they've got like a 2-game you know what I mean? I mean, to your point, though, yeah.
Kevin,
yeah.
Do you think, from your standpoint, do you look back at games 1 and 2, and do you view it glass half empty? You're up 9, you're up 12 late in both those games, and you don't come away with a win? Or do you look at it more glass half full? It appears clear what the problems are, being more assertive, limiting second chance points, having Tyrese Halliburton and Pascal Siakam both take over more. Those are all fixable, and you're still right there in this series. What lens, now that we're removed from the knee-jerk reaction just the other day, are you at with them being down 2-0?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say I'll cop out and give you a little bit of both, because I do think the Pacers are still in this series, certainly, because I don't think they've played their best yet. Certainly their stars have not played their best. And I look at the Knicks offensively and think they seemingly can't do this again, can they? But granted, they probably look at the Pacers defense and think, oh, yeah, we can do this again. So I think that's where you have optimism of the Pacers. I think the Knicks play pretty close to their ceiling, and they're starting to get even more wounded. To Jake's point, they lose a player a game seemingly, and the Pacers, are not in that boat. That's where I think I'm optimistic. But at the same time, I mean, you're asking the team to win 4 out of 5, and that's a lot. I mean, unless another injury occurs, that to me is difficult. They still have to win a game at MSG, and we all know Game 7's on the road, and what the road team's record is. So all the eggs in the Tuesday basket, and hell, Tuesday's not even guaranteed. Like, you still got to get to Tuesday. You got to do your part on your home floor. Obviously, it's a team that's played really well at home. Haven't lost at home in nearly 2 months and all of that. So I think there are some reasons to be, glass half full, certainly. But if you get into these end of game situations and you can't flip the script, I mean, you could be packing for Cancun. Your fan base could be, yelling 1, 2, 3 Cancun at you, and that's just crazy to think. If you would have told me the injury card has played out how it has, I would never have thought the Pacers would be potentially swept in this series. I don't think they will be. I think they're going to make it a competitive series, but still, that's the reality of where you're at right now heading into Game 3.
Kevin, when it comes to go back, I guess, full circle to the beginning of the conversation with Kevin Bowen and talking about rookie minicamp. Now, I'm not trying to, throw any rookie under the bus here that's not part of the conversation, but I've got to ask you this because I have concern. I have concern. The other day, I caught some of the conversation that you and Andy were having about Andy's preparations for being able to enjoy Carb Day, which I'm thrilled that it's always fun, right, to see people be able to experience all of that for the first time. And I know for you guys, that's such a fun day. We had so much fun out there because we're off the air at 10, and then the practice gets going, and it's just awesome. But I heard Andy say that he's going to start with IPAs and then eventually move to bourbon. Now, this to me is troublesome.
Dangerous game.
Yeah, I mean, he is playing with fire like no other. Yeah,
you start
I believe the exact script was multiple IPAs to start the day, then to transition to light beer. I kind of heard him out at that point, but then he said, then I'll switch to bourbon. I'm thinking, boy, as the temperatures rise over at 16th and Georgetown, the midday switch to bourbon.
Listen,
beer before liquor, never been sicker, folks. I mean, what are we doing here?
What are we doing? And here's the other thing. I like IPAs, don't get me wrong, but IPA, and maybe I'm unique here. I do love IPAs, but I think of IPA as more of like the October-November beer. Like in the sun and on Carb Day, drinking an IPA is kind of like just going ahead and downing a Mrs. Butterworth's, right? I mean, like, that's a little thick. Am I wrong, Kevin?
No, and I'm certainly an IPA fan. I can't say I've consumed many, if any, at 7 a.m. before. I don't think I was doing that alongside you last year. I was sticking more to the light beer at that hour. So, part of me thought if Andy's goal is to make it a race day, he could take a hell of a nap at that point, probably until race day.
Yeah.
Maybe taking a little carb day concert action, flying over to the infield, and just hope no one finds him until the cannon goes off Sunday morning. So I'm trying to spin it. I guess I'm trying to go glass half full, going back to Jimmy's question, but his plan of attack sounded very glass half empty to me. It didn't sound like Little Gas would be getting a lot of parenting in that 24-hour span after that day.
Here's the thing. The plan of it, if it's IPA switching to lighter beers, switching to bourbon, that's a lot more attack and a lot less plan, right?
That is well said. Yeah, that is. I was stunned. I think Mark and I had our jaws to the floor on that. Several texts, several tweets of, does he understand how this day could unfold there? So, I'm not going to doubt the man, but and part of me wants to kind of see it play out. But then part of me is like, well, I'd also like to have a co-host moving forward.
I mean, I was like, wow, okay. I guess asking if he wants to come up to the perch to watch some of practice while I'm broadcasting is probably that might be dicey as well, right?
Yeah, he could be swinging from the ladder, honestly, that you go up there for your practice. Yeah, pit stop competition, he could be maybe out there trying to change his tire at that point of the day.
Beautiful,
so,
yeah.
We are looking forward to having, I've said this to you, we're looking forward to having you on, hopefully starting next week of some educational process about the 500. And, again, he is a first-time goer and, advice and do's and don'ts. And I figured if you had heard that, you probably were taken aback by it.
Yeah, I was impressed more than anything, and then I was terrified. A little of both, right? Yeah. But okay, so Kevin, you're on your way to the complex. You'll have coverage, obviously, on the website, and then Monday, not only of Pacers Knicks, but also what you witness out at West 56, right?
Correct. Yes, I'm here now, so look forward to that here in the next couple hours.
All right. We appreciate it as always. Have a good weekend, Kevin.
Have a great call tomorrow. Thank you.
We'll try to do so. That's right. I forgot tomorrow's the Sancio Grand Prix, obviously, going to be heard on this radio station. I will be in new location for me for the Grand Prix this year.
Are you excited about that?
No, he hates change. Like the parking spot situation, Jimmy. Come on
fair.
now.
That's fair.
Yeah. No. I don't mind that. Well, no, you're right. The parking thing. I say new location. I called the Freedom 100 one year, I think, from this spot, but I am in the Oval Turn 4. So for those that are interested, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, there are 4 broadcast positions. There's a basket that hangs underneath, and it's interesting because in Turn 1, where the broadcast basket is, you're right above the masses, and 5% of people realize you're right above their head. You can see them. I mean, last year it was during the NASCAR race on the road course. I was in Turn 1 of the Oval Basket, which is actually the end of the road course. You're calling like 12, 13, and 14. And from that perspective, I was like turning around and talking down to fans, not figuratively, literally, like looking down and conversing with them. But very few people realize that you're sitting right there because it's right above. But that's Turn 1. Then Turn 2 is atop the suites. And for the Oval, that's turn number 2. For the road course, that's as they take the turn of Turn 10 back onto the Oval. My location now for this year's broadcast is going to be in the basket in Turn 4 of the Oval, which is where Chris sits for the 500. But it is actually watching them go into Turn 1 on the road course. So Mark will throw to me to start the race, which is cool. And then I will throw to, I believe, Nick Yeoman, who is on top of the roof of the pagoda.
Is that the most?
And then around.
Is that the most precarious spot, or where is, if any, the most precarious spot to broadcast from? Or are they all pretty solid?
I think personally, and I will say I've been fortunate enough to have been to all of them. The basket in Turn 1 requires a lot of contouring your body. There's beams that come through it, so it's very uncomfortable, and you can't stand up all the way. You have to kind of bend down. It's pretty cumbersome. The perch in Turn 4 is actually a bench that is attached and on the back of the grandstand of Turn 4. So if you were to fall backwards off of it, you are falling 40 feet onto Georgetown Road. But to me, the old Turn 2 location which is one of the baskets that you climb at the top of the Southeast Vista. You climb a ladder about another 15 feet, and the ladder itself, I mean, it is straight down to the pavement of the parking lot of the Brickyard Crossing. And that one, the wind is such in turn 2. Last year when I was up there for, I think it was, I don't remember what race I was up there for, but it got really windy, and I was really close to being like, okay, I'm going to come down off of this because it gets, I mean, it sways back and forth. They're all great vantage points. You can see everything. It's great. Turn 3, though, is the one that I'm the most biased towards, on the oval at least, because it's what I've called home for the last, 10 races or so. So I love every minute of it. You dipped into the national Rolodex for our next guest, correct, Eddie?
That's right. Hembo from Greeny.
Nice. So Hembo from Greeny, who's a baseball historian as well, correct?
Oh, he loves baseball. That's right.
All right, we'll ask him a couple baseball questions as well and get his thoughts on Rick Carlisle's $35,000 fine. If you're just joining us, Rick Carlisle fined earlier today, $35,000 by the association for critique of the officials after Game 2. It was a topic of conversation with Greeny and his show, and I have a feeling that means it will be on this one next as well. We wanted
usually?
to have what's that?
Do you usually? Thought this was a truthful
That's right.
relationship we had going on
Well,
here.
we
no?
wanted to have Hembo on from the Greeny Show, who, of course, you see not only on Get Up, but also you hear on this radio station from 10 until 12 every day with Greeny. And we wanted to have Paul Hembekides, his name, but Hembo is what, of course, we all know him as. Wanted to have him on primarily to talk, Pacers, Knicks, maybe mix in a little bit of like the greatest baseball player that most people don't know of is an Indianapolis native. And then I find out that they were talking about, murderers and killers today on the show. And I'm like, well, hell, let's screw everything else.
Yeah,
right?
I decided I'm going to leave for this conversation because it's your
let's
lane.
go.
I'm just in the back seat riding.
But we'll stick with Pacers Knicks probably, right?
Yeah.
Hembo joins us now on the show. How are you, man?
I am great. It is a delight to be with you. I very much appreciate the time and the invite. Let's have some fun.
I agree with that, and I appreciate you coming on. I'm ready to have some fun, and I think people in Indiana are optimistic, probably cautiously optimistic, that it could potentially be a fun night in Game 3 between the Pacers and Knicks. One of the real storylines, and let's get right to it, is the $35,000 fine for Rick Carlisle for his critique of officiating after game number 2. I was a little surprised that he went there. You guys discussed it, so for those that did not hear it earlier, where have they been? Recap for us kind of the national perspective on Rick Carlisle's comments.
Yeah, Rick Carlisle's comments were completely and wholly and roundly unacceptable, and at the same time, a genius, strategic, ideal move for a series that has been defined by officiating so far. And if I had any guess, it would be that arena tonight is going to be lit, it's going to be super loud, and the human nature that officials will naturally come to the arena with won't help but be influenced by the fact that those fans are going to be up in arms anytime that Indiana's called for a foul, anytime that you might see a little movement on a screen, anytime there might be a kicked ball. I think we'll probably see some sarcastic, cheering, clapping, laughter, etc. anytime the Knicks are called for a foul early in that game. And I actually do think that could go a long way in determining the outcome. I think the Indiana Pacers are going to win tonight, and they're going to win tonight by a lot. But if the first 2 games are any indication, and I might be wrong about this, then the game could be decided in the margin. And as we well know, as we learned in games 1 and 2 of this series, the officiating is definitely something that falls in the constraints of in the margins. And so I think he will more than happily sign that $35,000 check, knowing that every single person watching that game tonight is going to be watching the officiating very, very closely, including Adam Silver himself.
Okay, so in terms of it being unacceptable, elaborate on that if you could, Hembo. And then in addition to that, do you think that deep down many people from an outside Indiana standpoint saw the comments as invalid?
Invalid, no, because the Pacers should be at minimum tied right now with the Knicks because they were robbed of game 1 in like plain daylight for everyone to see watching the game and for 19,000 people in Madison Square Garden. The way that game was officiated at the very end of game 1, the final minute, was a complete and utter embarrassing joke. And I don't care how big a Knicks fan you are, you could not help but having watched that sequence at the end of that game and feel anything other than we are really, really fortunate to have not lost it. We are really, really fortunate for the fact that Indiana had that game taken from them by the whistle of the official. I think I'm an unbiased observer here. I'm a fan of the Philadelphia 76ers, as you know, rooting for no outcome except for great basketball. I thought it was embarrassing. That being said, when an NBA coach not infers, not insinuates, but effectively suggests that his team is getting a bad whistle because of the fact that they play in a smaller market, that's a whole different ball of wax. That's a whole different can of worms. I went there and after game 1, I defended Indiana and its fans and its players vehemently because of the way that game was officiated. But when you take it from the game was officiated badly and you take it then to we aren't being given a fair shake because we play in a smaller market and because our games might not rate as well on TV and because the Knicks haven't been relevant in so long and this is what the league wants and all these other insinuations, then you're taking it to a place where if I'm the commissioner of the league, if I'm a person that is an executive within the NBA's, league office, those kinds of places, those kinds of people, you can't help but find and you can't help but find that to be unacceptable because this is a league that has struggled with that perception and in some cases that reality for decades. Look no further than Game 6 of the 2002 Western Conference Finals, the legendary Lakers-Kings game. Look no further than the Tim Donaghy scandal. Look no further than the Jonte Porter stuff this year. Like, the NBA is acutely aware of the fact that many of its fans are conspiratorial, and not fans that reside in Podcastistan or Substackistan, but fans that reside in the mainstream. And if you're the commissioner of the league, if you're a person in power with the league, you can't have, and you certainly can't condone, a prominent figure, in this case, a head coach of a team in the Final Eight, suggesting in front of a microphone with the world watching that the league, for lack of a better term, is out to get them.
Hembo, I think that I'm in agreement with the second half of what you said. I think we're all in agreement. I understand what Rick Carlisle was trying to do. Coaches know that if they cross that line of commentary on officials, fines will arrive. It's going to happen. It's a tale as old as time. The league does not tolerate any of it. The fine was going to come regardless, but just to make sure we're all on the same page, and I think I'm in agreement with you on this aspect of it, if he would not have put his toe over the line, if he would not have insinuated small market versus big market bias, I don't think this is as big of a national story. Do you?
Oh, I agree with what you just said 100%. And I want to make clear one more time. The Indiana Pacers were robbed in game one. And the fact that it was the small market team, the fact that it was the Pacers, the fact that it was against the Knicks in Madison Square Garden with all these celebrities courtside watching, all these former Knicks players that never actually won anything that the world loves sitting on the first row watching. It adds to the optics of it being really, really bad. Like in this case, the Indiana Pacers are the proletariat, the middle America team coming from a small market, playing in Madison Square Garden, and not only do you have the collective basketball world rooting against you for that reason, but if you feel the officiating is not on the level, for lack of a better term, how many other things are you fighting against? Like, you have to play 5-on-5. You don't want to feel like you're playing 5 on everything else, and that's definitely the way that they felt. I want to make it clear. I think Rick Carlisle did exactly the right thing. I think the league is acting exactly in the right way in response. If I'm Rick Carlisle and I can paint my team and my fan base and my market as the victim, as the small market team that's being screwed over by the league, right? This is how people's lizards' brains work. This is how politics work. It's very, very effective. The league fined him, and they should have. But Rick Carlisle is not a stupid man. He has been around the league for 40 years, and he knows exactly what he's doing, and he's doing the right thing. Adam Silver is responding the exact way that he should, and in this case, that's kind of why I like it. Like, everyone in this little epic is doing the thing they're supposed to do. They're doing their job as well as they possibly can, and I guarantee you, the Pacers will have a much more favorable Game 3 and Game 4 whistle, at least in part because of all the histrionics.
Hembo is our guest. You hear him with Greeny, of course, from 10 until 12 on ESPN Radio just before this program. He joins us now on the always popular, nationally significant, but shockingly unsponsored guest line. Hembo, I thought Rick Carlisle, and I want you to tell me if I'm getting too Freudian here. I thought part of the brilliance of him calling out the officials like he did was a little bit of double entendre of standing up for his guys, but also putting the entire onus now on them to perform in Game 3. Because now that issue has been addressed, seemingly there is no excuse for Indiana other than their own performance, and they have to know that.
They have to know that, for sure. You got to remember, and look, you guys know this as well as anybody. You do this for a living. You do it exceedingly well. Coaches and players, to some extent, know that when they're talking in front of a microphone with cameras in front of their face, the audience, the recipient of your message is very different than it is in the locker room. The Pacers know they're not going to win this series. They're not going to win 4 of the next 5 games if they continue to play defense as badly as they did in Game 2. They know that, right? But what Rick Carlisle is trying to do is create some interference. What Rick Carlisle is trying to do is change the narrative. And the fact that they went from, after Game 1, effectively saying nothing. I mean, he was ridiculously restrained, I think, in relation to what most of us would have thought. And then Game 2 changed his tack once he felt like, the whistle didn't come around in our favor. What ultimately is going to matter here is very simple. Are you guys going to play any defense? If you guys play defense, you could win the series. You can win 4 of the next 5 games. Of that, there is no question. In the end, the officiating won't be much more than like a sort of a sideshow, much more than a subplot. like the facts on the ground, the meat and potatoes of this discussion, of this meal, are what's going to happen between those lines. If you guys can figure out a way to make Jalen Brunson have to work harder for his points, if you guys can figure out a way to prevent the Knicks from offensive rebounding, I think they're plus 18 in the rebounding margin right now. If Pascal Siakam can figure out a way to score some points and do so efficiently, if Tyrese Halliburton can, be the 3 to 4 to 1 assist to turnover guy that he was much earlier in the season, if TJ McConnell's going to get some clutch minutes, like all the basketball-y things are actually going to make all the difference here. But as someone who works on these national shows, I obviously understand that the average viewer, the average consumer of a national show is going to be much less interested in terms of how they're staggering TJ McConnell's minutes and much more interested in is the league actually out to get the Indiana Pacers? You guys know how this thing works. It's a tale as old as time.
Hembo is our guest. You hear him on these very airways leading into us, the co-host on Greeny, as well as a content producer for ESPN's national morning show, Get Up on ESPN. Hembo, it appears from a Pacers strategy standpoint that the goal with their depth and their pace is to run a Tom Thibodeau team that loves to play high minutes with their starters into the ground. One could argue that some of those riches are already being shown because Jalen Brunson was hampered briefly in Game 2. Didn't matter. They still won. OG Anunoby's out tonight. We'll see if that winds up mattering in terms of an advantage standpoint. But from a pace of play, the short-handed aspect of the Knicks and the fact that OG Anunoby's status for Game 4 in doubt and he's out for Game 3, will all of that aspect of strategy end up mattering for the Pacers? Or is it possible this Knicks team is too within itself to care how many bodies fall to the floor to push them to the conference finals?
It will not matter. I argued with Greeny about this on the show about an hour ago. I think the Tom Thibodeau runs his guys into the ground narrative, reality. I think the Knicks are going to run out of warm bodies, narrative or reality, all that stuff, like that part of the conversation is much more media creation than it is reality. Truthfully, the reason the Knicks are 2 games away from the conference finals is because Tom Thibodeau plays his best players a lot and they respond to him well. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't, especially in Greeny's case, obviously he's very anti-load management, as are most people. Anti-superstar sitting out, players resting, all these kinds of things. You have to pick your lane here. Either you want these guys to play basketball or not, right? I get the whole they're playing too many minutes thing. But when I watch Josh Hart at the end of these basketball games, it doesn't look like he's on his last legs. Jalen Brunson has been ridiculously good in the fourth quarter and in clutch time in this series and against my Sixers going back to last series. These are professional athletes, and they're conditioning themselves to play 48 minutes if necessary. Yes, this is a war of attrition, a battle of attrition, but you only have the options that you have. And in Tom Thibodeau's case, now that he basically only has 6 guys that he can trust, he'll probably, I would guess, play Alec Burks a bunch tonight, even though we know he doesn't want to. That's because those are the next best options that he has. So I think the Indiana Pacers, candidly, have allowed the Knicks to dictate the pace too much. Guys, as you well know, the game 2 had 92 possessions. 92 possessions was considerably fewer than the Knicks averaged during the regular season. The Knicks ranked dead last in pace during the regular season. Game 2 was played at a slower pace than the slowest team in the NBA played during the regular season. And by the way, the Knicks still scored 130 points. So in the end, I think all of these conversations in relation to the way that Tom Thibodeau staggers his lineups and overplays his guys and all that stuff is much less important than the basketball-y stuff. I hate to say it because we do so much of the narrative stuff on these national shows, but truthfully, the Pacers need to play a lot faster because that's, I think, the way in which they're going to get the Knicks to play out of their element. And through 2 games in the series, I think the Knicks have dictated tempo a lot more effectively.
I think, by the way, Jalen Brunson's fresh in the fourth because he takes time off in the third quarter saying it's his foot when he just got racked. I think that's what happened there, right? We know that's what happened. Lastly, Hembo, I know you're a baseball historian and enthusiast, okay? I'm going to put you on the spot, so my apologies for that. I don't know, you've done things talking about Roger Maris and, well before the time that any of us that are here now were watching baseball. It is my belief, just based on things that I've read historically speaking, I did not see the man play clearly, that former Negro League star and manager and contributor Oscar Charleston, who is a native of Indianapolis, is one of the top 5 to 10 baseball players of all time. And had he played, obviously, in the non-Negro leagues and into the major leagues once it was integrated, that more people would know that. But that Indianapolis has undersold the greatness of a player and his contribution to the game. Does that ring a bell or resonate with you from a national standpoint at all?
Of course, I mean, from a national standpoint, definitely not. I mean, if you ask the average ardent baseball fan who was Oscar Charleston, most people would be like, "Do you mean Oscar Robertson, the basketball player?" So he is definitely not well known at all. I want to say something like 25 years ago, Thomas Boswell, the old Washington Post columnist, who was at that point considered baseball's foremost historian, I think once destroyed the Sporting News or some entity for putting Oscar Charleston really highly ranked on one of these lists of all-time great players. I'm not at all prepared to answer this question because I didn't know it was coming, but here's what I'll be able to tell you about Oscar Charleston. He is inarguably one of the 5 to 10 greatest baseball players that ever lived. Of that, there is no question. Oscar Charleston, I think you could credibly say, was a player comparable to Ty Cobb in terms of his skill. Now, obviously, there's no good way to be able to numerically demonstrate that. We have a pretty limited amount of data when it comes to his production, his numbers, the value that he generated in the Negro Leagues. But from everything that we have, we know that he is, if not the best player in the history of the Negro League, probably no worse than second behind Josh Gibson. I mean, having won the Triple Crown multiple times, I think possessed a power-speed combo, a little bit more akin to what we eventually saw from Willie Mays. The only reason he's compared to Ty Cobb is because Ty Cobb played a little bit more closely in terms of the time in which he played. But the story of Oscar Charleston is so tragic because so much of his greatness has been obscured throughout the passage of time for a variety of reasons. I mean, Satchel Paige and Josh Gibson have been the Negro League players that everyone's known a lot about. I think to a lesser extent, Cool Papa Bell. But I mean, I'm just recalling an anecdote. I believe that when Oscar Charleston passed away, I want to say that the Baseball Hall of Fame had to put an ad out in the newspaper to find any living person that they could find that had any relation to him, because he became so obscured over the course of time. He became something of a tragic figure in baseball history because for as great as he was, that candle burned out really, really fast.
Right.
Baseball history went on, and so few players were remembered from that time. So, look, this is a long-winded way of answering this question. Yes, I know a lot about Oscar Charleston, and if you ever like to have me on again sometime to talk about his life, his legacy, his extraordinary baseball career, I'd be more than happy to.
Would love it, man. Would love
you.
it. He was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1976. He had a very modest marker that simply recognized his military career. Upon his passing, he is buried just west of Indianapolis by Central State Hospital. And just a couple of years ago, a baseball historian noticed the marker and then raised the money for a proper marker that signifies his incredible baseball career. But absolutely one that Indianapolis, Oscar Robertson also from here, but Oscar Charleston, equally great. Hembo, would love to have you back on. Appreciate it, and enjoy the weekend. And maybe it'll be 2-2 when they go back to New York, but we shall see. But appreciate the time today.
Later, boys.
I appreciate it. Hembo from Greeny. We will take a quick break. Tony East going to join us top of the hour.
Join JMV Thursday, May 16th, live from Pivot.
I said Tony East was going to join us at the top of the hour. That still holds true. It's going to be just a minute or two after it because when it comes to watching the clock, I let things go south. So Tony East will join us just a couple.
The Ride with JMV.
The number 15.
Qualifying, by the way, will be getting underway for the Sancio Grand Prix about 2 hours from now out at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Gorgeous day, at least it was last time I checked. Is it still nice outside? Do we know, guys?
I think it's still nice.
Tony East may know. He joins us on the program. Tony, still nice outside?
Yes, according to my weatherman skills, which are looking out the window as you asked me that question, it is still gorgeous outside.
Okay, good. I want to begin with this in terms of not right now the conditions, but last night, not Pacers and Knicks game 3, which is tonight, but last night with the Fever. And I'm curious of this. I got a push alert that said Caitlin Clark, stuffs the stat sheet. And I looked at the box score. I did not watch the game per se, but I was always interested with this Tony East, and that was the things that have made Caitlin Clark a transcendent breakthrough star are the way that she played at Iowa with the pull-up threes, the long shots, the dynamic crossovers. But it seems to me that in terms of the Fever, it is her play facilitating, ball handling, and passing ability that is the thing that they will most tap into more so than the rest. Is that, in a very small sample size so far, looking to be accurate at all?
I think so. Who knows what she'll look like as a rookie? Maybe she'll be, incredible right away. But like Aaliyah Boston, they're going to be their best player this year, most likely. And being in the post all the time, she's going to be the recipient of a lot of those passes, right? So already you're seeing some facilitation, with good pick and rolls, getting the ball into the post, all that sorts of stuff that already was, an improvement. And Grace Berger's improved passing has made that skillful team look good. Like the stuff that she's doing, it's Halliburton-esque. Like they'll get a rebound, she'll get the ball and just fling it 60 feet up the floor to someone running for a layup. Perfect, quarterback, on a dime. Her first assist of the game last night, I believe, was to Temi Fagbenle on a pass like that was just unbelievable. Like that's the kind of stuff that she's going to do that's really going to up the Fever's tempo offensively, and maybe the threes will remain at the same level. I think last night she was 2 for 8 or 2 for 9 from deep. It's harder for her to get space against these better defenders, but her passing already is translated. Looks very good against pros and has already made Melissa Smith and Aaliyah Boston's life so much easier for the Fever.
Tony, we discussed this a little bit yesterday, half joking but half serious, because we both kind of thought about it, Jake and I, but both did not do it. How many people do you envision purchase season tickets with the intent to at some point sell tickets to the Caitlin Clark experience with Aaliyah Boston, with the Indiana Fever, but clearly the jump in sales due to the drafting of Caitlin Clark? And we looked at the secondary market. I know it's a preseason game, but it wasn't as gouged pricing as I expected, and there were still 13,000 people there for a preseason game last night. So how intense do you anticipate the secondary market to be, and how crazy can we expect these home crowds to be throughout the Fever season?
Yeah, I've got a feeling that during the regular season, it'll depend on how well she plays at the beginning of the year to kind of gauge what that advantage is going to be. But, every time another road team moves their arena to a bigger arena, I got a feeling that, the hype will remain for a while. So I'd imagine that, especially once the regular season starts, the secondary market will be booming. But, I landed from New York at 5:30-ish yesterday, so I didn't get to the game until right before it started. So I got the traffic like everybody else. And just from that experience, I can say that I think the secondary market's going to be pretty hot because there were a lot of people, which was, not something that has been the case with the Fever in past seasons. They averaged, a little over 4,000 last year. They had 13,000 last night. I don't imagine that's going to go away for a while, especially given the number of people that have texted me and asked what the best way or easiest way to get tickets is, often including, as I'm sure you guys are familiar with, asking me if I can be of assistance. No, I cannot is the answer. But, yes, I have a feeling it's going to be hot for a while, especially if a preseason game last night is any indication.
Tony, if you go on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it these days, sometime, and you'd have to be pretty bored, don't get me wrong, but go to my Twitter account, @JakeQuery, and read my Twitter bio. It'll be a
I'll do it right now.
Okay, and if you read my Twitter bio, you'll be like, you know what, amen, brother. That's what you're going to say. You are going to feel as if the two of us didn't already have this, kinetic over-the-air bond on this, the always busy and surprisingly unsponsored guest line. When you see that, you're going to go, yep, there you go.
Tony was also a top 2 finisher in a spelling bee?
That is correct. No, Tony may not have in common the. Are you looking at the bio right now?
I was a top 2 finisher in a spelling.
Ooh, there you go. Okay. What word did you in?
I hate to say this because it's not a hard word to spell. I got access wrong.
I could see that. How old were you?
I was 6th grade.
What if he's like?
12?
What if he's like? It was the Indiana University spelling bee. Okay, so are you looking at my bio right now?
Yes, I am.
Okay. What's the last thing that it says on my bio?
I don't have extra tickets.
I'm telling you, you need to put that in there.
See, but Jake, the word extra implies that you do have some tickets, so you are opening up the world to questions here.
That's true, but people always say, "Hey, do you have any extra tickets to such and such?"
All the time.
I don't have tickets to anything, right? Shannon's got tickets. I don't have tickets to anything, but now, go ahead.
Well, it's funny because most people in my life figured that out for Pacers, but all of a sudden Kalen got drafted and everybody forgot that I said that for years. So it became a thing again quite recently.
Look, it's fun, no doubt, right? And it creates energy in the building. So too, obviously, to the playoffs. That's obviously magnified when the New York Knicks are involved. And Pacers-Knicks tonight, game number 3. Pacers down 2-0. We know all of that. Rick Carlisle getting fined $35,000 and willing to put himself out there to call out the officials. In reality, Tony East, did he put more spotlight and pressure subconsciously tonight on the officials to clean up their act, or the team to have his back the way he appeared to have theirs?
Yeah, I would say the officiating part, just because after game 1, it was the opposite script, right? After game 1, Rick said, we got to play better. We didn't play very well. I don't want to talk about the officiating. You're not going to get calls in MSG, blah, blah, blah. And all the players, Aaron Nesmith said, it wasn't a big ball. And Miles Turner said, I like when the players decide the game, right? They didn't go super far, but they clearly were frustrated by it. And then game 2 is the opposite, where the players said, no, we've got to be better. We just gave up 130 points. Our defense wasn't good enough. And Rick was, the one on the officiating trail. And, of course, that's easy to say when you got ejected from the game and, didn't obviously felt the calls were incorrect with he's submitting 49, the team is, after that game. So I think that puts it on the officials a little bit, because I have to imagine there's a lot of synergy between player and coach after the first 2 games, even though their tunes were different on which game they reacted to in that way. But, clearly there is a sentiment of that, and they have to respond to it. Right? They can't come out flat after all that, obviously, so that is some pressure. But I think the hope from them, of course, is that the answer is on the officials, because they have not liked what's happened in these games. And, of course, they've got to play better. They've given up over 120 in both games. I think that's the headline, obviously. But, they had maybe 1 game where somebody commented on officiating during the regular season, maybe 2. Now 2 games in a row for the team. So I think they're hoping that does something for them.
Tony East, our guest, covers the Pacers for Sports Illustrated. Of course, you can find him as well on the Locked On Pacers podcast, wherever you get your podcast. Tony, what are the reasons for and the reasons for not giving into the masses and giving TJ McConnell crunch time minutes, and how much is that impacted by fatigue, increase in minutes, and potentially messing up other areas of the rotation?
Yeah, I think you kind of nailed the tricky part of it, right? The for argument, it's obvious. He's playing very well. Double-double in the last game, had a bunch of points the first game. The Knicks are not doing what the Bucks did. They're not going zone the second he comes in, and so that player we saw at the end of the regular season that was, a bucket every night for the Pacers, that McConnell looks like he's playing again because it's easier for him to get in the lane. The space is there. It's a lot easier for him to play that way. Of course, it helps for the assist numbers that the rest of the bench, Shepard, Toppin, are also playing very well, but he's been awesome. And he's playing very well on Brunson. I think the most pestering on him of anybody, and we can talk more about him in a minute, but I think he's been very good, right? That alone is the argument to play him. The problem is, who do you take out for him, right? Last game specifically, a lot of people were clamoring for it at the end of the game, and I get why, and I think he probably should have been out there. But, you're not taking out Tyrese Haliburton in his 34-point game. He played very well in that game and, was oftentimes their only source of offense on the floor. And Andrew Nembhard's been good enough on Brunson. I thought he had a nice, efficient game as well. If it's not them, then it's probably Aaron Nesmith or a front court player, and then you're really small. And then the Knicks all of a sudden have a size advantage with, a Chua Hart and a front court guy. So it's the trouble isn't that he isn't playing well enough to play. It's who do you take out for him in a way that doesn't totally screw you on one end of the floor. And, looking back, I probably would have tried him for Nesmith to close game 2, but, it's not an easy discussion, especially against a team that is killing them on the glass over and over again, right? Like, you can't sacrifice too much there. If you put someone too small on Josh Hart, you might be giving up stuff anyway. It's just really tricky, and kind of the consequence of the way the Knicks play and the way Jalen Brunson's playing that, yeah, I think they got to play McConnell more. I think they just need to play their bench groups more in general with how well they've been working. But at the expense of what or who is the harder question, and I think that's what they'll have to figure out tonight and going forward.
Tony, what can Indiana do adjustment-wise to eradicate the problem? And I get it. This is a strong suit of New York's that they have lived off of here, but allowing New York second and third opportunities through offensive rebounds and out-rebounding you, 1.75 to 1 or whatever it is in the late third and early fourth quarters. What possibly matchup-wise can Indiana do to eradicate that?
So, ironically, the thing they could do to eradicate it would actually create fewer of those opportunities in general, because I think some of this is they were bad at rebounding in the regular season, right? They're not the most principled rebounding team in general, like box outs and finding their guys and being physical on the glass, just a problem for them all year, right? They were, I think, 26th in rebound rate, and that they've got to be better at the basics. The way they're defending Brunson a lot, sometimes sending two to him, or at least flaring out on him after screen, so he sees two, and then rotations behind the play. Those scramble situations on defense, it's harder to box out or find a man in those moments, because sometimes you're not guarding anybody at the time of a shot going up, and then you're trying to figure out who to box out or what or whatever. And the Knicks are know immediately who should be crashing in those moments. Again, I tweeted it last night. The signature play of the Knicks rebounding to me is this half transition opportunity. Deuce McBride takes a tough three for the Knicks. Pacers, that's a good shot. They want that to be the shot given up. He missed it. Great. And they kind of half box out Isaiah Hartenstein to scramble play, and Hartenstein tips it towards Josh Hart, who's also half boxed out by Ben Shepherd. He tips it, and they get an offensive rebound, and they score on the possession, right? In a normal situation where they're just perfectly matched up all the time, they would know exactly who to box out and what they need to do there. But as soon as they get in rotation, or as soon as they don't know where their man is and stuff like that, it's a lot harder. And some of that's the way they're defending Brunson, and some of that's just poor defense at times. If they clean up their defense in general, it'll help. If they're just better at rebounding basics, that will help. But it's a hallmark of the Knicks. You're going to give up some of that. The question is how much you're willing to live with, and how does it impact your own ability to play in transition. The Pacers have to figure it out, because both second halves, that's been brutal for them.
Where is the level of difference made with the absence of OG Anunoby? Because when I look at the rest of the Knicks bench, be it Diakite, be it Alec Burks, be it whoever.
What bench?
Exactly. That's my point, right? When I look at, let me rephrase that. When I look at the occupants that are taking up other courtside sellable seats that happen to be members of the New York Knicks basketball club, when I look at those potential guys, or if Tom Thibodeau decides to just roll with six and forget about the rest of the bench, who knows? He's a mad genius sometimes. What is the difference-making divider line of OG Anunoby not being out there versus the Knicks being this just crazy gauntlet machine of 30, 40 points from Brunson and Josh Hart and DiVincenzo playing near career levels?
Yeah, at what point is it that he can't keep getting away with this rotation, right? With the injuries that they've had, because the back of their bench, Derko Sims, Shake Milton, Diakite, and I'm missing one guy. But they have four guys that just aren't. You're not going to play them in the playoffs, right? The Knicks do, and then they don't have Randall and Bowen and Mitchell Robinson for maybe the rest of the season. We'll see about Mitchell Robinson if they make the finals, I guess. But that's what is that? 7 guys out of 15 already. So no OG, they're down to 7. Their starters, Alec Burks and Precious Achiuwa is the only guys available. I might have just Deuce McBride is their only guys available, and one of them is going to start for OG. So they're really thin, and at some point the injury is just as much about how much it impacts their whole rotation than losing the player himself. That's what I felt with Mitchell Robinson. It's less about losing Robinson and more that they have to play weird lineups with Precious at the 4, and they have to play Precious a lot now. And then, maybe they'll have to dust off Alec Burks. And Tom Thibodeau, he dusted off Alec Burks for a whole 44 seconds in Game 2. But at some point, this can't keep working for them. But maybe not, right? As long as they've got Brunson, DiVincenzo, Hart, and Hartenstein, maybe it can keep working. But Anunoby's really good, right? That's the difference between him and Robinson in the year so far. Robinson was going to play 10 to 15 minutes a game. Anunoby's playing 40, and he was awesome on both ends, right? He had more points than minutes in game 2 before he got hurt. He's guarding Pascal, like, all the time. I think he had 10-plus minutes logged guarding just Siakam in game 1, right? That's been a huge matchup for them and really effective. So if he's out, one, they'll probably start Precious, who's big, but at some point they'll be smaller. Like Josh Hart has to play the 4. They can't play Achua and Hartenstein 48 minutes. So Siakam should have an easier time scoring, and those big lineups that have worked for the Pacers with Toppin, Siakam, and a big should look even better because they'll be going against smaller groups. So obviously those are advantages for the Pacers, and Anunoby's just good, right? Like losing him hurts the Knicks. He makes threes, he plays good defense, he moves the ball. He's a really good fit for them. His on-off numbers are unbelievable. The Knicks were like -9, I think, with Achua on the floor in game 2. If he has to play more or 30-plus minutes because that's all they have, how much does that affect him? He's not that good of a shooter. So it's a huge loss for them. And, again, at some point they just can't keep getting away with, maybe they can. I guess it's the Knicks. But 40-plus minutes of all these guys. So at what point is there a player where it's the straw that breaks the camel's back? I thought maybe it'd be Mitchell Robinson. It wasn't. Maybe it'll be Anunoby. Maybe it won't be. But I think the Pacers have a really big opportunity with them out.
Lastly, Tony, the conclusion that Pascal Siakam will be retained by Indiana because they're going to give him an another contract, not another, but they're going to sign him because he's a free agent at the end of the year, and that it's going to be a hefty price tag for the 30-year-old Siakam. A couple of weeks does not a season make, I realize that, but is that becoming far less of a certainty or far pricey a certainty than perhaps we thought when he originally arrived from Toronto?
I would not change my opinion on that at all. It's much better to max him than lose him, so that's how that negotiation would go if I'm Pascal's agent. And I mean, he literally won them a playoff game that their only road playoff win so far that ended up being massive in that first round series. And I think people are overstating how bad he has played. I mean, he's not at that level, but he's still playing fine and was massive in their closeout second half of Game 6. We'll see how the rest of the series goes. But I mean, I get why the discussion is a thing, but I mean, he's a tremendous player. At 30% of the cap, he's worth it. He's very good. So
my only concern is, and you would know this better than I, the number of years he's going to get, you would assume, is how many?
I mean, I would assume he would like to have 5, but we'll see how that actually goes.
Because he's going to be 35 at that point.
Yeah, I hear that. I've already been looking up for my research project on players who this discussion happened for them, where they were 30-ish, they got a 5-year deal, and everybody thought, that could be bad at the end, and then it turned out fine. And the one I'll give you right now is Drew Holiday, right, with the Bucks. He just wrapped up a massive, I think, $200+ million deal that was with both the Bucks and the Celtics. Everybody thought, whoa, that's going to be brutal for the Bucks at the end of that deal, and he was awesome through the whole thing, and now he got $100 more million by the end. Maybe that's not the case for Siakam. Players have obviously aged out of contracts in their 30s, including my favorite player of all time. But I mean, there's a lot of evidence of that actually working too. So it's just impossible to say.
But
right?
Holiday did not finish that contract with the Bucks, correct?
Yes, he got traded to the Celtics and then finished. He's finishing it right now. This season is the end of it.
And your favorite player of all time would be
John Wall, who was awful by the end of his massive contract.
It's true.
But he also got the Supermax, and Siakam can't legally get the Supermax now. So I think I mean, obviously, if you're the Pacers, you would like to have maybe a year's or money discount, but maybe you can't get it, and that's fine. Again, you can't lose him he's very good and won them playoff games. I mean, I think it's kind of simple. It lines him up with Halliburton. Like, I think it's fine. So, again, I understand what people are saying, but I'm pretty firmly thinking that it'll be pretty simple negotiations in general.
Are we in line for a complete Tyrese Halliburton performance at some point in this playoffs, or is it going to wind up what my tinfoil hat thought on the whole thing is, which is that it's going to come out at season's end, man, yeah, this was a really tough injury he was battling. He's going to need the offseason to be back to 100%.
Did we not just get one?
Well, we did. I mean, we definitely did, right? But like it's clear though that like it looks like he's not that far off at times, especially the first half of that game. Like, I know he wasn't doing what I want him to do, which is drive to the rim, but nobody does that. No one's done that for 10 years. They're always pulling up for shots from beyond the arc or creating off the dribble, and he's highly efficient at it. But are we going to get robbed of that because of his health status, or do you think that is still something he is capable at his current state of piecing together?
Yeah, it's hard to say, right? Like, no star player ever has been like, yes, I'm injured. Like they're always going to not show weakness. And I don't know how badly he's hurt, but like the amount it's been brought up means it's something. I mean, it was literally used and cited when they were doing the referee discussion after game 2 with that Josh Hart shove. So it's not nothing, certainly. I mean, it's hard to drive against the Knicks in general, the way they defend. But obviously they needed to try to get him in there. That's when he's at his best, when the Pacers are at their best. And it's scoring 34 the way he did with the shot making he had. Reasonable to expect every single game. I mean, he's had good games. I guess I get what you're saying. He hasn't had the in-season tournament where every game was 30 and 13 felt like level stuff yet. But yeah, I think it's definitely a factor how much or how bad it is. I don't actually know. I don't think we'll ever find out. Maybe until the season's over. But he has games you're like, oh, there he goes. He just dunked twice and a half, and like he's getting by guys. And the other games where it doesn't look like that's the case as much. So it's hard to say. Maybe it's a thing that literally changes every day for him. But I thought he was pretty dang good too.
Is there a lineup of Obi Toppin, T.J. McConnell, Tyrese Halliburton, Pascal Siakam, and I don't know, I guess Neesmith or Nembhard that's usable? I guess, is there a way to keep Siakam, Halliburton, McConnell, and Toppin on the floor late in games? Is that possible?
Well, I actually like I get why you'd want to do that as the Pacers. There's a lot of worry in my own head about what McConnell does if you have 3 ball handlers on the floor, right? Like, the reason it works so well when he's with just Siakam,
right,
sometimes just Halliburton, but not as much, is like he's bringing it up, and so he's got the ball, he's threatening. But when he doesn't bring it up as much, or when he's reduced in role, he can be effective still. We've seen it all season. Like him and Halliburton together were good, but
he's not a guard you can go put in the corner to go spot up for 3. That's not his game.
Right. And in the playoffs, it's certainly different. So that's again why it's hard to figure out. Like if he can defend Brunson really well, then you don't care, right? You're like, okay, whatever, that's fine. But it's certainly tricky. That's why I think they're doing a good job of doing him plus Siakam with those bench groups that have been so killer.
We might have lost him.
Uh-oh.
We got you back now. After you said killer, the line decided to kill for a second, but you're back now.
The line killed. Yeah, so those lineups have been killers. So I think again that's something they should explore and maybe should have gone to at the end of game 2. But it's really tricky just with what McConnell is and isn't good at to figure out exactly what that would look like offensively in a way that wouldn't totally sink the team. But maybe the defensive trade-off is worth it.
By the way, I don't know if I should be alarmed by this or not, Tony, but the entire time we've been talking, the hotline number of our radio station is calling me on the phone. Have you had any? Are you interfering with my phone? That's not you, right?
I hope not. That would be concerning. Also, calling into a call I'm already on would be quite funny, though. I should do that sometime.
I know what's happened. You know what's happened, surely.
No.
The hotline has feelings too, Jake, and you've been dragging it through the mud the last couple weeks. And it's finally biting back.
It's the shockingly unsponsored hotline. All right, Tony. Tonight, Game 3, and then Game 4 on Sunday, and then obviously back to New York tied 2-2, right?
If OG misses both, I think that's actually very possible. So we'll see how it goes, though. I mean, I thought they could beat the Knicks at health, and they haven't done that yet. So we'll see.
I know.
I think
it is
possible,
crazy. Anything is possible. Kevin Garnett said it, and we'll see if it happens tonight. Tony, we appreciate it, as always, all right?
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, Tony East joining us on the program. And because he's on his way, I assume, to the arena, I did not, in that conversation, ask about Pepper, right?
It's a rare one. Usually, I mean, again,
today's Boo's birthday, by the way.
Happy birthday to Boo. How old is Boo? Are we allowed to ask that?
Well, that's a great question. Boo is my cat, for those that don't know, and Boo was a rescue. And when I got Boo, they told me he was 9. But then when I took him to his first vet appointment, they said that he could be as young as 6. And that was in March of last year. So I then did a thing where I said, well, Boo, you need a birthday. So we did a little thing where I counted the months, and I told him the way that he was going to let me know the month. And when I got to May, he bunted me with his head. So I go, okay, your birthday's in May. Now we're going to go 1 through 31. And he bunted me at 10. So I said, okay, your birthday's May 10th.
There you go. I like it.
So I decided that if I got him in March and they said he could be as young as 6, I'm going to go with that, meaning that he turned 7 last May 10th. It was after that we determined his birthday. So he's 8. Today's Boo's 8th birthday.
Happy birthday, Boo.
Yeah. So Boo's home. Plenty of beers tonight. when
Just
I get
be
home.
careful with the IPAs and the light beers and the
right.
bourbon.
Boo's got to pace.
Don't let Andy and Boo hit the bars.
He's got to make it to 9, so we don't want him going the IPA followed by light, followed by bourbon mix. Guess what? Above and beyond Boo's birthday, there's more good reason to feel good, or more reason to feel good on a Feel Good Friday. Our segment with that, a feel-good story in the world of sports, and a pretty unbelievable one next.
The IRS is the most powerful collector.
Pretty awesome. I know it's a feel-good Friday today, but it was a feel-good Saturday for a lot of people. I absolutely love doing the 500 Festival Mini Marathon, and I think it was the 14th year that I've done it, but admittedly, probably a mix of run, walk, jog, more so than in the earlier years that I did it. But it is fun for everybody, and one of the really great feelings, sarcasm aside, is when you're on the Yard of Bricks and you look up on the video boards and they are interviewing the winners. And you're like, oh, okay, well, that group is done, and I'm at mile 6. That's a good feeling. It is a good feeling, though, because it is fun, and I have always said one person's 2.5 hour run is another person's 2 hour. It's all different, and there are all challenges. But then you hear a story where you go, holy cow. Now, that is beyond impressive, and for a number of different reasons. Joining us now on this Feel Good Friday to perhaps celebrate and brag a little bit about the fact that she ran the mini marathon last Saturday in 1 hour and 15 minutes. That's correct. She went 13.1 miles in 75 minutes. And Anna Heine joins us now, the pride of, I believe, Goshen. Is that correct, Anna?
Mishawaka.
Okay, well, it's the same thing, right? Goshen and Mishawaka.
They're close.
Now, so you are the pride of, did you attend Notre Dame?
I did, yes.
And let's begin with this. First, congratulations on winning the women's half marathon, the fastest woman finisher in the 500 Festival Mini Marathon. Did you know going into it? I've always said, and I'm not an elite level runner, you clearly are, but you kind of never know going from one race to the next just how your body's going to respond. Sometimes you feel great, other times your legs are lumber. When did you have an idea this day was going to be special?
Truthfully, I was not anticipating it going in. I stayed back. I was in about 5th for the first few miles, and it wasn't until about mile 6 when I realized I was starting to close in on the leader, and then moved into first at about mile 8 and held it from there. But it was, like I said, I didn't go into it really anticipating it, but I think the warmer weather actually ended up working in my favor too.
Okay, now in terms of half marathons and your career as a distance runner, you were obviously, I guess, a runner in college. When did you become an avid distance runner and competitive one as well?
Going back into high school, my sophomore year of high school was really when I had a big breakthrough year, won my first national championship, but it's been building on it since then. So high school was a lot of shorter track races and 5Ks. College was more 5K, 10K, and now post-college I'm looking more at half marathon and full marathon.
Okay, now comes the real unveil here, okay, because this is truly, and I'm not a woman, obviously, Anna, but I think I think this is inspiring to a lot of people, because was there a time when all of a sudden, based on timeline, that you wondered whether or not you would be able to run this year's mini marathon, and how close were you to getting to the point where you would not be able to run it because you were dealing with something a little bit differently than years past? Go ahead, the floor is yours.
Yeah. So I towed the starting line 23 weeks pregnant this year. Very different from when I raced last year, and the first race that I've ever run pregnant. And like I said, I really wasn't anticipating winning going in. Didn't really know totally how I'd feel. I've been trying my best to train and prepare, but it is a little strange. I'd say getting into better shape at the same time growing a child and gaining some weight with that. So it's been really fun to train for it because I don't have an expectation necessarily for what I'm doing. But yeah, the starting line and the finish line felt a lot different this year.
And I'm going to show my total ignorance and naivete, Anna, and I apologize for that, right? But in terms of, just take me through like your doctor. I hate to ask it this way. How far into term could you still be able to run to that level, I guess, where it is maybe all the way till the end? I don't know. I mean, I know a lot of people will take a walk there if you're, towards the end. But what exactly did your doctor, like in terms of consultation, throughout this process? And my apologies for the naivete of that question.
No, it's a very common question, truly. I'll say the very first doctor's appointment we had, my husband and I made sure to tell the doctor that I have quite the background in distance running, would like to continue that. And she looked at me and said, "Oh yeah, there's no issue with that. We'll let you know if there's any reason you should stop, but there's essentially no restrictions if your body's used to it." So I was grateful to hear that, but I will say I think give me a few more weeks and I don't know if I'll be running quite a 5:45 mile for 13 miles. So I think I think this was truly perfect timing to be able to race while I'm significantly into my pregnancy, but not so far that I'm very uncomfortable the whole time, I'd say.
Well, Anna, the reality is, I think to a lot of people, as a matter of fact, I was talking to another woman who said, look, this is an incredibly empowering story for women because obviously you are going with, the beauty of life, right? And it's a wonderful story. I mean, there is not a downside to the fact that you are carrying, a baby, but there may be some women that feel that is going to hold them back temporarily from things that they want to do and things that they want to accomplish. That's unfortunate, but I could see that mindset being there for women. Were you aware of the fact that this could be inspirational for women?
I did have that thought cross my mind. That was a big reason I wanted to do it because I enjoy it and I love competing. I want to keep having those opportunities as long as I can. But also I do want to be an advocate for women and for families to be inspirational or just give people some of that hope that you can pursue multiple dreams at the same time. And given everyone's pregnancy is going to be a little different, I don't blame anyone if they don't want to run a half marathon pregnant. But to me, it was one of those, celebrating the many gifts I've been given, celebrating this running ability and celebrating the gift of life at the same time is really powerful.
Now, it goes without saying that you got to keep the medal and then put it in the baby frame and everything else with the photo and everything, right? Because, I mean, this was, you won for 2, right?
Yeah, it's true. Whatever part of my body crossed the line first, it maybe could have been the baby's first victory. I don't know.
That's a good point. All right, lastly, now I have been playing this game for a long time, and I've been exactly right 4 times. I've only been slapped twice, okay? Can I play my favorite game, Guess the Due Date?
Oh, yeah. Go for it.
I'm going to go and give me, one correction if I'm wrong here, but I'm going to go with August. I have this premonition, August 27th.
It's higher.
So you mean it's later than that?
It's later.
Is it significantly later than that? My math
No,
might be
you're
off.
pretty close.
Well, my birthday's September 3rd, so I'll go with that on guess number 2.
All right. It's August 30th, so
Okay.
halfway between.
Halfway between the two. All right. Well, 27th is in play, just so you know. Take the under, Jimmy. Okay, Anna, listen, congratulations. It's a fabulous story. It's an incredible accomplishment. I mean, running the mini marathon for anyone is an incredible accomplishment, but doing it in an hour and 15 minutes and doing it while carrying another human is even more impressive. And you see so many stories of inspiration, so many stories of hope, so many stories of reflection during the course of the 13.1 miles. And it really is a fabulous story. And to have somebody from Indiana right here win it on the women's side is just fantastic. So we wish you the best, and we certainly wish you the healthiest coming up towards August as well. I appreciate your time today.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Very cool. Anna Heine, who, again, the pride of Notre Dame and Mishawaka, Indiana, winning the Indianapolis Half Marathon. By the way, when it comes to running the mini, that was, as you folks have heard me mention it before, when I had my heart attack, it was one of the first things I thought. I was 6 months out from the mini when it happened, and that was one of the first questions I had was, hey, listen, will I be able to do this again? And with proper heart health, I have been able to do it 4 times since. And that's the thing that is so important about heart health. And Franciscan Health is there for you when it comes to that. As a matter of fact, the #1 heart program in Indiana for cardiology by Health Grades, #1 in Indiana for interventional coronary care and major cardiac surgery by CareChex, and this is the most important thing, they offer the affordable $49 non-invasive heart scan where you can get ideas as to where you stand in terms of calcium buildup, blockage in your heart, and start to be proactive about your heart health. Notably, if you are over the age of 40, if you have any of the at-risk factors of heart disease or high blood pressure like cholesterol, diabetes, obesity, if you're a current or former smoker, Franciscan Health is there to help for you and take you through that journey in terms of heart health. You can always call to set up that scan at 833-238-0688. Jake, I'm not going to remember 833-238-0688. I understand. You can also simply go to franciscanhealth.org/screening bundles, or Googling Franciscan Health Heart Scan will do the trick as well. But it is important that you take care of your heart, and every Friday it's important that we tell you something that makes your heart feel good, like a woman running for 2 and winning the mini marathon. We will come back. We will get Jimmy's plays of the day on this Friday edition of Aquarian Company.
Join JMV Thursday, May 16th, live from Pivot Bar in Balcony.
Plays of the day, all NBA selections, all NBA prop bets, a host of overs, and one under. We'll start first in the over department. We will take Jalen Brunson of the New York Knicks over 34.5 total points tonight in Game 3 of the Eastern Conference semifinals. In that same game, we will take Pascal Siakam over 21.5 total points for the Indiana Pacers. If not now, when? In that same if not now, when category, over 19.5 total points for Tyrese Halliburton. Last Pacers-Knicks prop, and this one likely will get an eyebrow raise from Eddie Garrison. Under 3.5 three-pointers made by Dante DiVincenzo. If there was one area he struggled from beyond the arc, and there weren't many, it was on the road against the 76ers. Last one for you, Nuggets and Timberwolves. That game gets underway tonight as the series shifts to Minnesota with the T-Wolves leading 2-0. We'll take Anthony Edwards, Ant-Man, over 27.5 total points. Eddie has no plays, so those are your plays of the day.
Man, what was the DiVincenzo that you said there?
Under 3.5 total three-pointers. And I'll admit, he's been electric. He's been electric since Game 7.
That'd be really good news for
Indiana,
Indiana,
where he
though.
dipped was on the road against Philadelphia. He's been tremendous. Look, I'm not saying it is plus money, though, for just to take a ride on that. So,
do you think it's weird that the station keeps calling my phone? Do we know if we still have jobs?
I mean, I never know if we still have jobs, but
well, maybe it's getting rid of you finally. I don't know.
Eddie and I at one point hosted a show on these airways where we broke into the building.
I wonder if it's an HR department calling you for all your violations of harassment.
Do we have one of those?
Do we have one?
You're about to find out.
Pacers win tonight. Go ahead.
Just so you know, Eddie had said when it comes to figuring out how to deal with me about the different things I make fun of him. And somebody said, I'm just having a hard time wrapping my head around it. And they said, because it's that difficult? And he said, no, I only have 9 feet of rope. Right? Isn't that right?
Sure. Yeah.
I think Pacers win tonight. I think Pacers win on Sunday. I think this is even at 2 games apiece. It's not just because of OG Anunoby being injured. That large part factors in tonight. But in terms of going into Sunday 2-1, I buy into everything of teams playing better at home. I think this is just what the Pacers need. And I think you're going to see a step-up moment from both Pascal Siakam and Tyrese Halliburton. I think it's even by the time we come back in here on Monday.
Miles going to stink it up, though. He better do something. My Twitter handle's in trouble tonight, Jake.
That's right. I
can't have that.
Well, you and I both were catching heat after game, whichever it was, game 2, right?
Yeah, it's just numbnuts, though, so.
That's what
mine has that guy with a really weird lip gloss and the duck lip selfie thing. Yeah,
5 o'clock.
He's a complete tool.
Yeah, he comes after you, right?
He does. I was listening.
Now, have you noticed the like bots now that their accounts with like 18 followers, and they tag all of us, and they put like little videos about the Pacers, and then I go and look at their timeline, and they're doing that to like every team in the league, and I'm like, how does that work?
Is it an algorithm? Is that what they use?
That's got to be it.
Because clearly Elon Musk and the algorithm thinks I'm a big-time porn guy.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah.
I can't tweet anything without like 19 porn. They think I'm like
Picture
John
bio,
Holmes
right?
Jr. or something.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Yeah, we have a lot of crossover in that regard in terms of like I'll look and like we're
I'm
both
Peter North.
We're both attached. It's well, okay. All right, John, you got a big one lined up?
We do. It's pretty much all Pacers all the time because this is such a mammoth game. Now I haven't heard. I know OG Anunoby's going to miss. I know that what's his nuts is a question mark. Brunson. So,
John, I stole some thunder from you briefly. I apologize when I did it. No OG. This is as must win as it gets. No. Like aside from the 3-0 hole.
It's must win. I mean, if they had Ewing and Oakley on the team, it'd be must win because, you can't go down 3-0, and then it's over, and then you're going to have Manhattan stuffed in Gamers Fieldhouse on Sunday, and you don't want that. So, yeah.
All right, I'll be there tonight on my way to the Speedway. We got qualifying and then over to the Pacer game. So, John,
go get him, buddy.
Carry us home, right?
All right, guys. See ya.
We'll be back on Monday. Thanks for listening to Query & Company.